Chapter 43-36. Full Text Divine Soul Sovereign's latest chapter. Where's that expert? Fei Pingze asked coldly. That lord is usually elusive, so I'm not very clear about his exact whereabouts. However, he has taken great care of our Shi-Ran clan. If he knows that the Shi-Ran clan has been exterminated, he will definitely not let this matter rest. Shi Sheng said carefully. Shi Sheng said. Shi Sheng, put away your little tricks. Now, ask someone to open the Great City Barrier Array. I only want the array diagram of this Great City Barrier Array. As long as you give it to me, I'll consider letting you live, Fei Pingze said lightly. The array diagram of the Great City Barrier Array of the Third Sky of Eternal Realm was extremely precious. Fei Pingze was naturally tempted. Shi Sheng's heart thumped as he knew that things were not going well. He hadn't figured out why the Great City Barrier Array had suddenly become stronger. How could he know what the array diagram was? He did have the original array diagram of the Great City Barrier Array in his mansion, but it was only at the early Second Sky of Eternal Realm. Anyone with a discerning eye could see it. But Shi Sheng also knew that in order to survive, he could only go all the way. According to Fei Pingze's instructions, Shi Sheng began to send a message to the person in charge of Shi-Ran Divine City, ordering them to open the Great City Barrier Array first. But soon, Shi Sheng received a message that left him dumbfounded. The person in charge of Shi-Ran Divine City actually asked him to leave and not implicate the people in the city. I'm your great clan master. You don't listen to my orders? Why don't you open the Great City Barrier Array? Shi Sheng was flustered and exasperated. He gave up using the communication jade token and shouted at the gate of Shi-Ran Divine City in front of him. Great clan master. You'll always be our great clan master, so you have to shoulder the task of protecting us. For our own good, you'd better die. Don't implicate our people. This is what you taught us in the past. In order to survive, we can abandon anything and feelings. Now, we are doing what you taught us before. So, please don't implicate us. Go die by yourself. In Shi-Ran Divine City, some of the clansmen replied that they wanted Shi Sheng to die, but they refused to open the Grand Formation. The people in Shi-Ran Divine City had also discovered the extraordinariness of the Grand Formation. Therefore, they would rather die than open the Grand Formation. Even if the Grand Patriarch died, it didn't matter. Shi Sheng was completely flabbergasted. He had never imagined that his fellow clan members would be so cold and emotionless. They would even give up on him, the great clan sovereign. Shi Sheng, your clan is really hopeless. You don't even care about your fellow clansmen. You're so selfish. No wonder your Shi-Ran domain is getting worse every year. Fei Pingze laughed mockingly. Shi Sheng, on the other hand, did not seem to notice. He continued to shout at the God City, even playing the emotional card. Unfortunately, in the Divine City, no one replied to him. They were all extremely cold. Shi Sheng was in despair. He knew that he had lost his value. Fei Pingze would never let him live. Sure enough, he found Fei Pingze looking at him coldly. A trace of killing intent burst out from Fei Pingze's eyes. Shi Sheng, it seems that you're useless. In that case, I'll just force my way in. Since your clansmen want you to die so much, then die. Fei Pingze said slowly. Then he pointed a sword finger at Shi Sheng's glabella. Shi Sheng struggled to escape, but unfortunately, his whole body was bound. He could only watch the sword finger fall on his glabella. He could clearly feel a destructive force sinking into the depths of his glabella. It began to erupt constantly, destroying his spirit. After Shi Sheng's breath was completely gone, Fei Pingze's eyes fell on Shi-Ran Divine City again. Only then did he notice that the Grand Formation on the surface of Shi-Ran Divine City was a little chaotic and dim. Just now, my 5-god cannon caused a lot of damage to the Grand Formation. This shouldn't be a 3rd Heavenly Layer Eternal Realm Grand Formation, but a peak 2nd Heavenly Layer Eternal Realm Grand Formation. Fei Pingze muttered to himself. He knew very well that if this was really a 3rd Heavenly Layer Eternal Realm Grand Formation, the 5-god cannon couldn't have caused such great damage. I was almost fooled by Shi Sheng. Since it's not a 3rd Heavenly Layer Eternal Realm Grand Formation, I can blast it to pieces with a few more shots of the 5-god cannon. Fei Pingze sneered. He took back the ferocious shackles on Shi Sheng's corpse and merged into the Black Divine Ship. Just as he was about to drive the Black Divine Ship into the sky and bombard Shi Ran Divine City, a cold voice suddenly came from the city. The Shi Ran clan is indeed rotten to the core. You're all just a bunch of selfish, pathetic people with no bottom line. Rather than living in this world, it's better to die now. The cold voice was loud and clear. As soon as he finished speaking, the grand formation around Shi Ran Divine City suddenly became chaotic. Then, the grand formation exploded with a loud bang. Self-destruct. Fei Pingze's face changed dramatically. He only had time to turn the Black Divine Ship into a sphere and wrap his whole body in it. The terrible explosion spread over. The self-destruction of a second heavenly layer eternal realm grand formation was so powerful that it even exceeded the power of Fei Pingze's 5-god cannon. In an instant, the Shi Ran Divine City was in chaos. All the cultivators were scrambling to escape towards the Shi Ran Divine City. Some powerful cultivators even thought that the cultivators in front of them were too slow and directly killed the clan members in front of them, just for themselves. They only had one more second to run away. The ugliness among the clansmen of the Shi Ran clan was forced to show at this moment. However, no one could escape from the city. They were all turned into powder in the explosion. When the explosion finally subsided, the Shi Ran Divine City had already disappeared, leaving only a terrifying and huge abyss. Next to the abyss, a dark ball rolled slowly and landed on a rock on one side. The black ball began to unfold, and a sorry figure climbed out of it. Pucci. Fei Pingze spat out a mouthful of blood, his face as pale as paper. Who controlled the grand formation of Shi Ran Divine City? Fortunately, I reacted fast enough. Otherwise, I would have been killed by the explosion. Thinking of the dangerous situation just now, Fei Pingze still had lingering fear. Without the protection of the Black God, he would never have survived. It's not good to stay here for a long time. Let's get out of here first. Fei Pingze struggled to get up. The black ball turned into a Black Divine Ship and carried him away. At the same time, in a secluded alley in the distant Zixian sacred city, a young demonic cultivator with red eyes was holding a short array flag in his right hand. Countless cracks appeared on the surface of this array flag. Finally, with a cracking sound, it turned into fine powder and scattered down from the air, falling at his feet. Chapter 43-37. Fei Pingze's Black Divine Ship is really extraordinary. It could even withstand the self-destruction of a second heaven eternal realm array. Zhuowen muttered to himself as he silently looked at the array flags that had been shattered into powder at his feet. When he left Shi Ran Divine City, he had also added a surveillance array to the Great City Barrier Array. Therefore, Zhuowen was able to see everything that happened in Shi Ran Divine City. Especially after watching the battle between Fei Pingze and Shi Sheng, Yuan was shocked. The power of Fei Pingze's Black God was beyond his expectations. With the Black God, he could defeat Shi Sheng, who was half a step into the inverse ancient starlight realm. Is the sacred fire seed really so magical? It can make Fei Pingze's Black Divine Ship reach such a powerful power. Fei Pingze's words in Shi Ran Divine City echoed in his mind, which mentioned that his Black God was able to transform because of the sacred fire seed. This made Zhuowen more and more curious about the so-called sacred fire seed. Since the sacred fire seed could make Fei Pingze's Black Divine Ship undergo such a powerful transformation, could it also be beneficial to the Taiyu sacred sword? Clang. However, this thought only flashed through Zhuowen's mind. From the attitude of the third saintess Zi Long towards the sacred fire seed, it was obvious that the sacred fire seed was extremely important to the Zixian clan. While it was hard to say whether the Zixian clan still had other sacred fire seeds. Zixian Sacred City was extremely vast, more than 10 times larger than Nuwa City of the Nuwa clan. Sacred in the city, towering buildings were arranged in rows. At a glance, it was enough to dazzle the eyes. After Zhuowen walked out of the secluded alley, he looked at the bustling sacred city in confusion. Although he had done some homework before coming to Zixian Sacred City, he only knew the methods and ways to enter Zixian Sacred City. However, Zhuowen was completely clueless about the geographical map of Zixian Sacred City and the location of the divine ship that could travel to the supreme domain. Standing on the edge of the street, Zhuowen, with a confused look in his eyes, was in sharp contrast to the crowd around him. Zhuowen wanted to ask a passerby, but suddenly a timid woman's voice came from behind. "Sir, are you not familiar with Zixian Sacred City?" Zhuowen, when heard this, he turned around and saw a pure woman with big eyes standing behind him. She had a shy look on her face. Female, her cultivation was not high, about the early stage of the universe tribulation. She, noticing that Zhuowen was sizing her up, she blushed and quickly lowered her head. Clasping her hands together, she timidly said, "Sir, if you don't mind, you can hire me to be your guide. I've already stayed in Zixian Sacred City for several hundred years and know every place in Zixian Sacred City like the back of my hand." When she spoke up to hear, the woman was afraid that Zhuowen wouldn't want her, and she said with tears in her eyes, "My lord, please hire me. My younger brother has yet to recover from his injuries, and he really needs money for treatment. As long as you hire me, I'll definitely do my best to work for you." When looked at the pure woman in front of him silently, his expression calm as water, and said coolly, "Before hiring you, I want to ask you first. Do you know where the divine ship of Zixian Sacred City is?" When indeed knew nothing about the divine ship of Zixian Sacred City. Hiring this woman as a guide was fine. But intuitively, he felt that there was something wrong with this woman. As for what the problem was, he could not tell. "Divine ship? You want to go to the supreme realm?" The pure woman's expression changed slightly. "Yes, my purpose of coming to Zixian Sacred City is for the divine ship." "But is there a problem?" Zhuowen said coolly. The pure woman hurriedly waved her hand and said with a smile, "No. Of course there's no problem. It's just that not everyone can sit on the divine ship in Zixian Sacred City. The divine ship's ticket can't be bought with money. The divine ship's ticket is basically in the hands of the Zixian clan. Only important figures who have a relationship with the Zixian clan's upper echelons can get a ticket. Without this layer of relationship, I'm afraid that it will be a little difficult to get a ticket." When frowned slightly. He did not expect that this divine ship's ticket could not be bought with money. One had to know that Zhuowen's current wealth was extremely rich. No matter how expensive that ship ticket was, he could basically afford it. But the problem now was that this ship ticket could not be bought with money. This made Zhuowen somewhat helpless. As for having a relationship with the Zixian clan's upper echelons, he really had a relationship with the third holy daughter, Zilong. But it was not a good relationship, but a bad relationship. "My lord, I know a secret black market. There will occasionally be divine ship tickets circulating there. My lord, you can go there and try your luck." The pure woman suddenly suggested to Jun. When took a deep look at the pure woman, nodded, and said indifferently, "Then take me there. If you can really find a ticket for the divine worship in the black market, I will give you an extra handsome reward." She said. The pure woman revealed a look of surprise and quickly nodded, "Thank you, my lord. My name is Yenmeng. I'll take you to the black market now." Zhuowen did not say anything. He just nodded and silently followed behind the pure woman. After the pure woman took Zhuowen through 7 or 8 blocks, Zhuowen found that the surroundings suddenly became much quieter and more deserted. Zhuowen looked around and found that this was a dilapidated block. It was completely different from the blocks they had walked through before. Compared to the other blocks, this block was more like a slum. The surrounding cultivators were scattered, and their auras were obscure and weak. Their cultivations were all below the great tribulation of heaven and earth. Zhuowen looked around, but his brows furrowed slightly. His divine sense was far sharper than the cultivators of the great tribulation of heaven and earth. Even many universe Dharma powerhouses might not be able to compare. He had felt that something was wrong the moment he entered this dilapidated block. In the shadows of this dilapidated block, he vaguely felt a powerful aura. Only these auras were hidden. If not for Zhuowen's divine sense being different from ordinary people, he might not have been able to detect these hidden auras. "My lord, the entrance to the black market is in the hall in front of us." The pure woman saw Zhuowen suddenly slow down and turned to look at Zhuowen in confusion. She pointed at an ancient and dilapidated stone hall at the end of the block. The surface of this stone hall was mottled with the traces of time. It should have been pure white marble, but because of time or other factors, it was covered with dense black spots, like the spots on a dead person's face. Zhuan looked deeply at Yan Meng and said expressionlessly, "Continue leading the way." Yan Meng's expression was normal as she continued to lead the way. Very soon, the two of them arrived at the entrance of the ancient hall at the end of the block. The moment he stepped into the ancient hall, Zhuan's eyes flashed with an intense cold light. In that instant, he could clearly feel that there were several powerful auras filled with malice in the depths of the hall. Around the hall, there were destructive fluctuations from the attack array. It was obvious that someone had deliberately set up a powerful attack array in the hall. Chapter 43-38. Have we reached the entrance to the black market? After walking for another quarter of an hour in the pitch-black hall, Yan Meng stopped. Her shoulders suddenly trembled as she laughed out loud. Yan Meng slowly turned around. The pitiful and pure look in her big eyes had long since disappeared. Instead, they were replaced by ridicule, contempt, and complacency. "My lord, you are really innocent. You are actually so easy to fool. It can be said that you are the stupidest idiot I have ever met." Yan Meng laughed. Yan Meng laughed without a care for her image as she continued to ridicule and belittle Zhuan. Zhuan frowned and pretended to be puzzled as he asked, "What do you mean?" Yan Meng sneered and didn't answer Zhuan's question. Instead, she stretched out her slender hands and gently clapped. The crisp and melodious sound of a slap resounded leisurely in the pitch-black hall. Bush, bush, bush. 3 sounds of wind breaking could be heard from the depths of the hall. Behind Yan Meng, 3 men had appeared at some point. Their auras were stronger than Yan Meng's and had reached the late stage of the universe tribulation. "Hand over all your belongings. I can consider sparing your life and only crippling your cultivation." Yan Meng covered her mouth and laughed mockingly. Under Yan Meng's signal, the 3 men surrounded Zhuan in a triangular formation. "Robbery?" Zhuan asked with a frown. "Did you only realize now?" Yan Meng continued to mock and ridicule him. Zhuan's expression was calm as he said indifferently, "In other words, the black market and the divine worship tickets you told me about were fake. Was it to deceive me?" Yan Meng was startled. She didn't expect that this young devil cultivator would actually care about the black market and the divine worship tickets. Was this guy not afraid of death? That wasn't the case. Within Purple Jade Holy City, there was indeed a mysterious black market. And the divine worship tickets occasionally circulate in the black market. I have only entered the black market once. If I wasn't smart enough, I might have died there. A place like the black market is not a place that a low-level universe tribulation cultivator like me can casually enter. Even cosmic dharma adepts may not be completely safe in such a place. When they arrived at the black market, Yan Meng felt as if she was in a nightmare. Her beautiful eyes flickered with fear. "So you've been to the black market? Very good, then I can consider sparing your life first," Zhuan said indifferently. "What a joke! Are you courting death? Merely a middle-stage universe Great Tribulation fellow also dares to be so arrogant." Yan Meng laughed. Zhuan's words just now sounded like a joke to her. Brat who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, you'd better die." Of the 3 people surrounding Zhuan, the slightly plump man in front of Zhuan smiled sinisterly and immediately brought out his own universe world. While the other 2 didn't dare to be careless either. They both took out their own universal worlds. The terrifying aura of the great universal calamity surged out like furious thunder. It was terrifying and shocking. The corner of his mouth revealed an evil smile. A demonic red light flickered in the depths of his eyes. An ink-like devil chi surged out from his body and instantly enveloped the 3 people around him. "What is this? My power? My power is being weakened, my soul." Within the rolling devil fog, the voices of the 3 people became panicked, and then they let out mournful screams. Smoke, the complacent expression on Meng's face, completely froze. Her pupils were tightly locked as she looked at the rolling devil fog. Those screams were like sharp needles piercing into her heart, causing her heart to sink to the bottom. Miserable, the cries quickly disappeared, and the demonic fog, which was as thick as mud, also gradually receded. Juan was still standing in place, as if he hadn't moved at all. Beside him stood 3 figures stiffly. Smoke, when she looked over, she was shocked to discover that these 3 figures were her companions. Only it was these 3 people whose faces were wooden, and their eyes flickered with a strange red light, causing Yen Meng to feel exceptionally unfamiliar and terrified. Smoke the Dream stumbled, wanting to retreat and escape. So. The 3 of them let out beast-like roars and suddenly rushed out, surrounding Yen Meng. "I'm Yen Meng, what's wrong with you guys? Don't you even recognize me?" Yen Meng fell to the ground and looked at the 3 pairs of red eyes with some fear. With the 3 companions who had always obeyed her orders looked so unfamiliar today. "They are now my devil puppets. They only listen to my orders." Wen slowly walked over and coldly looked down at Yen Meng, who had fallen to the ground. Demon, the effect of the die was truly astonishing. 3 cultivators in the late stage of the universe calamity had been turned into devil puppets by the die in such a short period of time. This surprised Juon. Juon suspected that as long as it was a cultivator below the cosmic dharma stage, his demonic die had a very high success rate of turning the enemy into a devil puppet. Yen Meng sat on the ground. She first looked at her 3 companions who had already lost their minds and then looked at Juon, who had a cold gaze. She knew that this time, he had mentioned the hard board. "My lord, Yen Meng was possessed and actually had evil intentions towards you. Please forgive Yen Meng's mistake." Yen Meng lowered her head and begged. "Cut the crap, take me to the black market. If you dare to deceive me this time, I don't mind making you never see the sun tomorrow." Zhuowen said indifferently. Yen Meng nodded and said, "Yes, my lord. Don't worry, Yen Meng will definitely not play any tricks this time." After seeing Zhuowen's strange methods, Yen Meng did not dare to play any tricks. This time, she was much more obedient. Just as Zhuon had guessed, the black market was not in the old street that Yen Meng had brought him to. This street was actually one of Misty Dream's old lair. They would often bring cultivators who had just arrived in Purple Jade Holy City with ordinary strength here, and then a group of people would rob them. If necessary, they would even kill them to silence them and destroy their corpses. The black market was located in the southeast of Zhixian Holy City. There was a huge underground area there. Of course, this underground area was hidden under the residential area. The underground area was like an underground city, with rows upon rows of buildings and a lot of people. This underground city was commonly known as the black market. The black market was actually illegal in the Zhixian Holy City. However, it had never been investigated. It was said that there was a certain holy maiden behind it as a backer. Until as for which holy maiden it was unknown at the moment. The entrance to the black market was in an inconspicuous building. In the depths of this building, there was a small teleportation array. This teleportation array led directly to the underground black market. "I didn't expect you to dare to come to the black market again. You almost died last time, didn't you learn your lesson? Let me remind you, that Lord also came to the black market today. You'd better pray that you're lucky and don't meet him." At the entrance of the building, a tall and thin guard took the token from Yen Meng. After confirming it, he returned it to Yen Meng and said jokingly, "You don't have to worry about this." Yen Meng's face was slightly pale. After taking the token, she led Zhuowen and the 3 devil puppets into the building. Chapter 43-39. The 1-story building was shabby on the outside, but the decoration inside was enough to be described as magnificent. Inside the building, there were compartments, and in each compartment, there was a small teleportation array. As soon as Meng, Zhuowen, and the others entered the building, a beautiful maid with a professional smile immediately led the 5 of them into an empty room on the left. After paying the corresponding fee, the maid activated the small teleportation array in the room. Following with a burst of white light, Zhuowen's group of 5 disappeared from the narrow room. "Is this the underground black market?" When Gang opened his eyes and saw a bustling street with people coming and going. On both sides of the street, There were shops, and next to some shops, there were many stalls. First sky of the eternal realm material, the skull of the three-eyed wolf, is the main divine material for making helmets. Come and buy it, the price is fair. Our shop has a wide variety of things. Whether it's materials for making divine artifacts, divine medicines for refining divine pills, formation discs, secret medicines, and so on, we have everything you need. Come and take a look. We'll definitely have the one you want. On both sides of the street, whether it was the stalls or the shops, they were all shouting hard, trying to attract the attention and interest of the many cultivators coming and going on the street. Juan was surprised that although this was the underground city, it was not as dark as he imagined. Instead, it was like the outside world, sunny and warm, like a spring breeze. He looked up and found that in the sky in the center of the underground city, there was a big fireball that was constantly releasing heat and light. The light and temperature of the underground city were supplied by this huge fireball. While Juan also found that the surface of the entire underground city was surging with extremely strong fluctuations of array Dao. Bang! The large underground city was wrapped in a very powerful array restriction. Even if there was a great battle in the underground city, it would not affect the ground. Bang! However, if an expert at the level of Ni Gu Xingguang made a scene in the underground city, the great array around the underground city might not be able to stop him. Only yes, an expert at the level of Ni Gu Xingguang, with a respected status, would not come to the underground black market to buy things. It would be a disgrace to their reputation. My lord, the tickets for the divine worship are extremely rare and precious. Although they occasionally circulate in the underground black market, they are usually snatched up very quickly. Furthermore, the tickets for the divine worship are usually not circulated in the underground black market. Dream pulled Juan's sleeve and said softly. Juan nodded and looked at Misty Dream behind him as he asked, "Where is it?" The core of the underground black market, Black City, was also the most chaotic place in the underground black market. It's said that even universe Dharma adepts have fallen there. When Yen Meng mentioned Hei Cheng, her beautiful eyes were filled with fear. In her eyes, the cosmic law idol was already an unreachable expert. Such a powerhouse could fall in Black City. It could be seen how chaotic Black City was. "Take me there," Juan said calmly. Smoke Dream was stunned. The reason she had mentioned Black City and that her cosmic form had fallen there was to remind Juan that it was dangerous there. She wanted him to back off. But the guy in front of him looked too calm, as if he didn't put the danger of Hei Cheng in his eyes. "My lord, even universe Dharma adepts have fallen there before. It's too dangerous. And I've never been to Black City. I've only seen the outline of Black City from afar." Misty Dream wanted to continue persuading him. She had almost died outside the underground black market, not to mention the even more dangerous Black City. Entering there was absolutely no chance of survival. "Lead the way. Otherwise, you'll die immediately." Juan looked at Misty Dream calmly. His eyes flashed with red light and were cold and ruthless. Misty Dream trembled and didn't dare to disobey Juan. She could only obediently lead Juan to the core of the underground black market, Black City. Black City was located in the center of the underground black market. It was a fortress that occupied a large area. "Sir, not everyone can enter Black City. There are hard and fast rules. Outside Black City, there is a test of strength. If you can't pass the test, not only can you not enter Black City, but you will also be killed on the spot." On the way to Black City, Misty Dream told Juan many things about Black City. Black City was the gathering place of the strongest experts in the underground black market. It was said that the minimum cultivation requirement to enter Black City was the peak of the universe tribulation. However, although this was the minimum requirement, most cultivators at the peak of the universe tribulation would not enter Black City. Because in Black City, cultivators at the peak of the universe tribulation were the lowest existences. They would be cannon fodder if they entered. If they were unlucky enough to be targeted by a certain expert, they would immediately be gnawed to pieces. However, it was not that there were no cultivators at the peak of the universe tribulation who entered. Those who entered either died or had special trump cards to protect themselves. While the test to enter Black City was also extremely simple, but it was very dangerous. Black the City would send 2 cultivators at the peak of the universe tribulation to fight with the tester. If they could defeat the 2 cultivators at the peak of the universe tribulation, they would have the qualifications to enter Black City. Only yes, this test was only for cultivators below the universe Dharma phase. If one was at the universe Dharma phase, they would not need to take the test and could directly enter Black City. Master, Black City is right in front of us. After Dream brought Zhuowen out of the bustling streets, they arrived at the edge of a cliff. Below the cliff was a huge basin. And, in the center of the basin, a huge black fortress stood, surrounded by dense green grass. Looking around on the high ground around the basin, there were all kinds of buildings. Some of the buildings surrounded the basin in a circular pattern, with the Black City in the center of the basin as the core. Let's go! Wenwen ignored Yen Meng, who had a troubled expression, and continued to walk towards the basin. Just as they jumped down from the grass, several air-piercing sounds suddenly came from above. 3 figures swept past them in a very tyrannical manner. While the violent energy ripples lifted up the grass that filled the sky and flew over. If not for Zhuowen waving his sleeve in time to block them, they would have been in a sorry state by these flying grass. They're so rude. Yen Meng's beautiful eyes glared angrily at the 3 figures that hurriedly swept away, muttering unhappily. Originally, Yen Meng's voice was not loud, and theoretically, the 3 of them could not hear him. However, just as Yen Meng finished speaking, the 3 figures suddenly stopped and rushed back to Zhuowen's group of 5. Were you the one who said we were rude? The leader of the group was a skinny man with skin as white as a water ghost. His cold gaze swept across Zhuowen and the others, and finally landed on Yen Meng. Smoke Meng was so scared that she took a few steps back. The skinny man in the lead had an extremely powerful aura, far surpassing that of the other cultivators Yen Meng had seen before. Chapter 4340. An elite at the cosmic Dharma plane level. I'm done for. I can't believe I've provoked such an elite. Meng Xian's heart sank to the bottom. She couldn't help but look at Zhuowen beside her. Her eyes revealed a pleading look, but more than that, there was despair. Although she had seen Zhuowen's strange and unfathomable methods, after all, that was only a side trick. Moreover, Zhuowen was only at the middle stage of the universe tribulation. No matter how strong this person was, he should only be at the peak of the universe tribulation. It was definitely impossible for him to be a match for a powerhouse at the universe tribulation level. Sir, you misunderstand. I have no dissatisfaction with you. Yen Meng revealed a fawning smile and said humbly, Yen Meng, what a coincidence. I didn't expect to see you again. When Yen Meng bowed and apologized to the skinny man, a fat middle-aged man walked out from behind the tall and skinny man. His small eyes stared at Yen Meng's graceful body. Yen Meng felt that this voice was very familiar and couldn't help but raise her head. When she saw the fat middle-aged man, she was first stunned, then she couldn't help but take a few steps back in fear until she retreated to Zhuowen's side. Why are you here, Fuqin? Yen Meng stared at the fat man in horror. Of course, I'm leading the way for these 2 lords. After all, such noble existences like the 2 of you naturally have to come to the Black City to take a look. Fuqin sneered. Is this your old friend, Fuqin? The skinny man with a pale face frowned and asked. Originally Fuqin, who was originally complacent, immediately recovered his humble attitude. He hurriedly bowed and said, This woman was once my exclusive property, but she escaped when I wasn't paying attention. I thought she would never come to the underground black market again. I didn't expect that I would be so fated to meet her again. In that case, I'll leave this woman to you. We'll go to the Black City first. The skinny man nodded and rushed towards the Black City with another person. They completely ignored Zhuowen and the others because whether it was Zhuowen or the 3 devil puppets beside him, the highest cultivation was only at the late stage of the universe tribulation. They didn't put such trash in their eyes at all. Yen Meng, I remember that when you escaped, you said that when you came back, it would be the day of revenge. I've seen you again, but your cultivation hasn't improved much. As for your companions, Fu Chen glanced at Zhuowen and the 3 demonic puppets standing beside Zhuowen. His eyes were filled with disdain and contempt. If you come back and obediently become my slave, I will consider not killing you. Fu Chen said calmly. Yan Meng said angrily, Fu Chen, in Zixian Holy City, women's rights are supreme. Using women as slaves is a serious violation of Zixian Holy City's rules. Aren't you afraid of Zixian Holy City's law enforcement team? Fu Chen sneered and said, Yan Meng, this is the underground black market. The law enforcement team above ground has no jurisdiction over this place. Here, there is no difference between male and female rights. As long as you have the bigger fist and more money, you are the master of power. Now, you are talking to me about Zixian Holy City's rules. Are you telling me a joke? Speaking up to here, Fu Chen's face turned cold and said, Now kneel down, crawl over, kneel down and lick my toes. Moreover, take the initiative to become my slave. I can forgive all your past mistakes and let you live. Yan Meng clenched her fists tightly. She recalled the days when she was abused by Fu Chen and her heart sank. Don't think of making me submit. Even if I die, I will never become your slave again. Also, I have a new master now, and this lord is my new master. Smoke said. As Yan Meng spoke, she silently hid behind Zhuowen. Fu Chen frowned slightly and looked coldly at Zhuowen. He said, Yan Meng's new master? You are courting death. You even dare to snatch my slave. Don't you know your own weight? After discovering that Zhuowen was only at the middle stage of universe tribulation, Fu Chen's killing intent boiled. This kind of trash dared to snatch his woman. Zhuowen glanced sideways at Yan Meng, who was hiding beside him. He swung his right hand and threw the ladder to the side. Then, he looked straight at Fu Chen and said, Who do you think you are? So what if I snatched your slave? Do I need to apply for it from you? Fu Chen was stunned. He didn't expect that a mere middle-stage universe tribulation trash would actually point at him and scold him. This was simply courting death. You are courting death. Fu Chen was so angry that he laughed. He took a step forward and rushed toward Zhuowen at an extremely fast speed. When he arrived above Zhuowen, he took out his universe world. The terrifying and shocking aura of the peak of universe tribulation unrestrainedly crushed down. Zhuowen stood on the spot without moving. A strange and deep red light flickered in the depths of his eyes. At the instant this red light flashed, the 3 devil puppets beside him suddenly went crazy and let out beast-like roars of pain. This devil puppet's eyes were filled with a terrifying red light. Its 4 limbs were on the ground, and its hind legs suddenly stomped on the ground. It leaped into the air and grabbed towards Fu Chen. This devil puppet's 4 limbs were like hooks as it fiercely grabbed onto Fu Chen's plump body. No matter how Fu Chen attacked, it wouldn't let go. At the same time, the 3 devil puppets took out their blood-red universe world. The moment they took out their universe world, the huge blood-red world began to rapidly expand. A terrifying and destructive aura was constantly spreading. What? They're preparing to self-destruct. The moment Fu Chen was caught by the 3 devil puppets, he immediately sensed what the devil puppets were about to do. With a furious roar, he waved his arms and smashed the devil puppets on his body. However, his fist was like a clay ox entering the sea. Although the devil puppets were severely injured by him, they still refused to let go of Fu Chen even in death. At the same time, a strange demonic mist surged around Zhuowen's body. It suddenly spread out and enveloped Fu Chen's entire body. The moment he came into contact with the demonic mist, Fu Chen immediately discovered that his strength, body, and soul were being contaminated by some kind of demonic aura and were rapidly weakening. Fu Chen began to flee like a madman. He wanted to escape from this strange demonic mist first, and then get rid of the 3 devil puppets on his body. However, the more he fled, the more he discovered that the demonic mist was endless. He didn't escape from the demonic mist at all. Instead, the surrounding demonic mist became thicker and thicker, as if it was dyed black blood staining his body. Sensing that the aura of the 3 devil puppets' self-destruction was getting stronger and stronger, Fu Chen was completely flustered. He let out a panicked cry and became even more flustered as he searched for a way out of the demonic mist. However, what he didn't expect was that in reality, he had been walking on the spot in the demonic mist. While Zhuowen stood not far away from the demonic mist. His scarlet eyes looked mockingly at Fu Qin, who was running for his life like a headless fly. Bang! Bang! Suddenly, 3 terrifying explosions rang out from within the demonic mist. Under Zhuowen's control, the 3 devil puppets chose to self-destruct. The collapse of the 3 universe worlds produced an extremely huge amount of energy. Fu Qin let out an unwilling cry and was completely drowned by the energy produced by the self-destruction of the 3 universe worlds. The terrifying shockwave quickly spread in all directions in a circular manner. Zhuowen was still standing in the same spot. The strange demonic mist turned into a round egg and enveloped him, completely blocking the aftershock of the explosion. While Yan Meng wasn't so lucky. She was directly sent flying by the aftershock of the explosion and crashed heavily into the cliff at the edge of the basin in the distance. She spat out a mouthful of blood and her face was pale. Chapter 43-41. My lord. Meng ignored her internal injuries and the thick blood on the corner of her mouth. She crawled on all fours and crawled in front of Zhuowen, kowtowing repeatedly. At this moment, Yan Meng's heart was filled with fear and trepidation. She was afraid that her actions just now would anger Zhuowen and cause the latter to kill her in a fit of anger. After personally witnessing Zhuowen's expressionless face as he ordered the 3 devil puppets, who were her companions, to self-destruct and kill Fu Qin, she understood that the young man in front of her was definitely a ruthless character. Zhuowen coldly glanced at Yan Meng, who was still kowtowing, and said indifferently, "Continue to lead the way. Also, don't play any tricks in front of me in the future. You have to know that my patience is not limitless." Hearing this, Yan Meng trembled and kowtowed a few more times, indicating that she would not dare to do it again. Not long after Yan Meng and Zhuowen quietly left this place, Black City and the surrounding black market areas began to rush over one after another. The explosion of the 3 devil puppets was quite loud, and the entire underground black market was alarmed. However, after these cultivators heard the news and rushed over, they could only see the many potholes left behind by the battle. They did not see any other cultivators here. After wandering around for a while, some cultivators left one after another, no longer lingering here. The underground black market was a place without rules and laws. It was a place where the strong preyed on the weak. Fights and deaths were inevitable. These cultivators who lived in the underground black market had long since become accustomed to it. They only regretted that they did not get any benefits from this battle and secretly hated themselves for coming too late. Yan Meng and Zhuowen left the battlefield early and circled around to the entrance of Black City, but they were stopped. Black City was completely forged from sparkling and translucent black crystal stones. The entire surface of the battlements was suffused with a faint black halo. The gate of Black City was 300 feet tall. The surface of the gate was suffused with a faint black halo. In the halo, one could clearly see all kinds of patterns on the surface of the gate. Some of the patterns were of different shapes. There were strange beasts of strange shapes, buildings of different styles, and complex runes. Many patterns combined together to form a mysterious and bizarre scene. At this moment, the city gates were tightly shut, keeping Zhuowen and Yan Meng outside. On the city wall above the city gate, 2 black-armored cultivators with black divine blades on their backs stared coldly at Zhuowen and Misty Dream. 2 lords, my master and I plan to enter the Black City to trade. I hope that the 2 lords can make it convenient for us and open the city gates. Misty Dream's posture was very low as she begged the 2 black-armored cultivators on the city walls. Standing on the right side of the wall was a black-armored cultivator with a long face. He glanced at Yan Meng and Zhuowen and said expressionlessly, "Scram! Why don't you take a look at your cultivation? You dare to come to Black City?" Meng's pretty face turned pale. She hesitated for a moment and looked at Zhuowen, who still didn't say anything. She knew that this was her chance to redeem herself in front of Zhuowen. If she couldn't even do this well, then she really had no value to Zhuowen. The scene of the 3 demonic puppets exploding involuntarily appeared in her mind. Her delicate body trembled. She once again gathered her courage and said to the black-armored cultivators on the city wall, "Two lords, isn't there a rule in Black City? Can cultivators below the cosmic Dharma form enter the Black City by challenging two cultivators at the peak of the great tribulation of heaven and earth?" The round-faced black-armored cultivator on the left side of the city wall couldn't help but mock. "There is such a rule, but why don't you take a piss and look at yourselves? An early-stage cosmic tribulation cultivator and a mid-stage cosmic tribulation cultivator dare to challenge us? Hurry up and scram. Don't waste our time," Yen Meng said. Meng's face flushed red. She felt helpless. Just as she was about to retort, a strong wind came from behind them. Original Zhuowen, who was standing silently behind Misty Dream, a cold red light flashed in the depths of his eyes. He snorted coldly, grabbed Misty Dream's right arm with one hand, and stepped into the void with his right foot, disappearing on the spot. Where the moment the two of them left their original spot, an extremely blazing and terrifying sword light suddenly swept over from the ground where they were originally standing. Then, the ground exploded, forming an incomparably huge gully. The radiance was intense and terrifying. After the ground was blasted apart, the endless aftershock of the sword radiance swept out in all directions, tearing the surrounding space into pieces. Clang! The sword light's aftershock spread out in an unparalleled manner. When it landed on the city gate of Black City, the patterns on the surface of the city gate constantly rippled, completely canceling out the aftershock of the sword light, while the city gate remained intact. Zhuan looked deeply at the city gate of Black City. It seemed that the materials used in Black City were definitely not simple to be able to completely cancel out the powerful and terrifying sword light so completely. Whoosh! After the sword light exploded, a figure slowly arrived and landed at the city gate. This was a handsome man with snow-white skin. He was dressed in a black robe and had a long sword at his waist. After he landed at the city gate, he glanced indifferently at Zhuan, who was carrying the pale Misty Dream and retreating 100 steps away. The corner of his mouth raised into a mocking smile as he said indifferently, "A trash in the middle stage of the universe calamity can actually dodge my casual sword strike. You are a bit interesting. But under my sword, there has never been anyone who has survived. Since you were able to dodge my sword move, it means that you are not ordinary. Then I will give you a dignified death. I will allow you to commit suicide to atone for your sins." Wen's face turned cold. Was there something wrong with this man called Jian Wu's brain? He was bragging in front of him. It was clearly his mistake, but in his mouth, it was the greatest mercy. He even wanted him to commit suicide to atone for his sins. "So it's Lord Jian Wu. Quickly, please come in." On the city wall, the two black-armored cultivators, who were originally expressionless and cold, immediately burst into smiles the moment they saw Jian Wu. They were as passionate as fire as they smiled flatteringly. They hurriedly activated the mechanism of the city gate and opened the huge city gate. They were beaming with smiles as they bowed to Jian Wu. Jian Wu turned a blind eye to them. Instead, he stared indifferently at Zhuan. The mocking smile at the corner of his mouth became even wider. Zhuan said angrily. Wen slowly put down Misty Dream and looked at Jian Wu mockingly. "Are you sure there is nothing wrong with your brain?" The expression of Jian Wu, who had been looking down on Zhuo Wen from a lofty position, changed the instant he heard Zhuo Wen's words. Jian Wu said with a gloomy expression, "How dare you speak to Lord Jian Wu in such a manner? You are just a piece of trash in the middle stage of the universe calamity. You are courting death." On the city wall, the two black-armored cultivators immediately began to denounce Zhuan. Their tone was unyielding and vicious. Zhuowen's gaze was calm. He looked at the two black-armored cultivators and asked, "Didn't you say that I am not qualified to enter Black City? Then if I defeat this person, will it prove that I am qualified to enter Black City?" Chapter 43-42. The two black-armored cultivators, who had been loudly berating Zhuo Wen, immediately shut their mouths when they heard Zhuo Wen's words, as if something was stuck in their throats. They looked at the young demonic cultivator who overestimated himself with a strange gaze. Sword Wu was an early-stage Dharma characteristic sword expert. He was quite famous in Black City. If the two black-armored cultivators could still believe it if an early-stage Dharma characteristic expert challenged Jianwuk. However, a mere mid-stage heaven and earth great tribulation trash actually dared to boast shamelessly that he could defeat Jianwuk. They simply could not believe it. Jianwuk was also stunned for a moment. Then he laughed out loud and said, "You? Who do you think you are? You don't even have the right to challenge me. How dare you say you can defeat me? What right do you have? With that trashy cultivation of yours?" Wuk mocked mercilessly. However, just as he finished speaking, he immediately felt a terrifying gust of wind whistling over. In the blink of an eye, it appeared in front of him. Before Jianwuk could react, a clear slapping sound rang out from his face. Then he was sent flying by a huge force. He was sent flying backwards. Bang! Swordwuk crashed to the ground in a sorry state. He immediately jumped up and covered his red and swollen cheek with his right hand. His eyes were filled with exasperation as he stared at Chun. "You dare to sneak an attack on me?" Jianwuk roared angrily. His originally handsome face was swollen, making him look extremely miserable. At the same time, Jianwuk became somewhat vigilant. Although Zhuowen's cultivation was not high, his methods were rather strange. He actually did not react to this person's attack just now. Zhuowen sneered. A mere early-stage Dharma characteristic expert needed him to sneak an attack on him. The red light in Zhuowen's eyes burned brighter and brighter. The billowing demonic fog was like thick blood that enveloped him. Boom, boom, boom. Zhuowen rushed out again. Under the state of demonic corrosion, his speed was even faster than before. Almost as soon as Jianwuk finished speaking, he appeared behind Jianwuk. Zhuowen's right hand was like a hook. His 5 fingers tightly gripped Jianwuk's head, and then he ruthlessly smashed him to the ground. At this moment, Jianwuk had just placed his right hand on the hilt of the divine sword at his waist. He was a beat slower than Zhuowen. Boom! Jianwuk's entire face was smashed into the ground. His handsome face was embedded into the ground. Zhuowen's expression was normal as he grabbed the back of Jianwuk's head with his right hand. Then he did not hold back and kept smashing Jianwuk's head. The dull crashing sound was so clear and ear-piercing at the Black City's gate. Hara, the 2 black-armored cultivators, who had originally wanted to watch the show, were dumbfounded. They kept rubbing their eyes, wondering if they were hallucinating. Smoke Meng's beautiful eyes flickered with shock. Although she knew that Zhuowen was very strong, he was at most a little stronger than a peak universe tribulation expert. But now, seeing how easily Zhuowen had beaten Jianwuk, who was at the early stage of the cosmic phase, into such a sorry state, she understood that she might have still underestimated Zhuowen's strength. "I want you dead!" Jianwuk roared. Jianwuk roared angrily and suddenly pulled out the divine sword at his waist. A majestic and vast aura burst out from his body. Then, a shocking energy seeped out of his body and turned into a huge celestial giant in the void behind him. Rolling cosmic phase fires swept over with the power to burn the sky. Zhuowen snorted coldly and released his right hand from the back of Jianwuk's head. He took the opportunity to quickly retreat. While Jianwuk, who was enveloped by the huge cosmic phase giant, supported his body with both hands and slowly climbed to his feet. His eyes had become completely crimson red. His originally handsome face had already become bruised and swollen, covered in bloodstains. Combined with the furious expression on his face, it caused him to appear exceptionally ferocious and terrifying at that moment. Sword Wu Kei was truly infuriated. He was a cultivator who cared a lot about his appearance. From his handsome face and well-maintained skin, it could be seen that he had high requirements for his appearance. Moreover, Zhuowen had reduced him to such a sorry state, and had even specifically slapped his face. How could he not be furious? Lord Jianwuk is truly enraged. He has even brought out his cosmos aspect. He really wants to kill. On the city wall, the expressions of the 2 black-armored cultivators became especially solemn. They silently stared at the huge cosmic phase giant and stood up. Their bodies could not help but tremble slightly. Smoke Meng also revealed a worried expression. She was naturally not worried about Zhuowen's safety, but her own. Bai Shi was actually in cahoots with Zhuowen here. If Zhuowen was killed by Jianwuk, The latter would not let her go. Wuk's cosmic phase was 800 feet tall. It was the image of a swordsman wearing a wide robe with 2 divine swords hanging from his waist. You have completely angered me. I wanted to give you a dignified death, but you were too complacent. You actually dared to sneak attack me again and again. Such a shameless person should experience endless pain before he dies. Jin said. Wuk's voice was hoarse. He slowly merged into the huge cosmic phase giant, and then the cosmic phase giant seemed to come alive. It took a step forward and rushed toward Juan. The sound of 2 swords being unsheathed rang through the void. The cosmic phase giant pulled out the 2 divine swords at its waist and then stepped in front of Juan. It crossed its hands and slashed out. The sword light was like lightning. The sword light soared into the sky. The 2 sword lights crossed each other and ruthlessly slashed toward Juan. Juan shook his head inwardly. Jian Wuk's strength was really ordinary in his eyes. In the early stage of the cosmic phase giant, he could only be considered below average. Such a person had quite a reputation in Black City. This really made Juan feel strange. Could it be that the so-called experts in Black City were not as strong as he thought? Thinking of this, Juan took out the Taiyu sacred sword. He then held the sword hilt horizontally and slashed out. Heaven and earth primordial one-line sky. The fierce sword light pierced through the heavens and the earth. It was shocking. Under the cover of the demonic fog, there was a demonic red light flickering and lingering. The sword light was extremely fast and instantly arrived in front of the huge cosmic phase giant. Boom! At the same time, the demonic fog, which was as vast as the sea, instantly wrapped the huge cosmic phase giant tightly. 2 lines the sword rays intertwined with each other, creating a loud noise that shook the heavens and the earth. Then, the colorful energy ripples spread out in all directions in a ring shape. It was a terrifying sight to behold. Kacha! After the loud sound, there was a clear shattering sound. Jian Wuk's powerful intertwined sword light was crushed by the strange red sword light. Under the support of the demonic fog, the sword light became even more powerful and strange. In the end, it heavily entered the huge cosmic phase giant. Jian Wuk let out a shrill and ear-piercing roar. He watched as the cosmic phase giant on the surface was crushed by the strange sword light and crumbled inch by inch. After the huge cosmic phase giant collapsed, Jian Wuk violently spat out a mouthful of blood. His body fell to the ground pathetically, twitching in pain. He tried to get up several times but failed. Lord Jian Wuk must have won. When the black-armored cultivator saw someone fall out of the demonic fog and twitch pathetically, he subconsciously thought that it was Jun. However, when they finally saw the true face of the twitching figure, they were all dumbfounded. Their jaws almost dropped. Chapter 43-43. Lost. Lost? You must be joking. The 2 black-armored cultivators looked at Jian Wuk, who was lying on the ground and struggling to get up. Their hearts were filled with complicated emotions and shock. Juan slowly walked in front of Jian Wuk. The latter raised his head, gritted his teeth and said, "You hid your cultivation? Who exactly are you?" When Zhe looked down at Jian Wuk, who was lying at his feet, and said expressionlessly, "I am just a passerby who came to Black City to trade. Moreover, you used your high cultivation to oppress me. You only have yourself to blame for your death." With that, Yuan did not give Jian Wuk a chance to beg for mercy. He gently raised the Taiyu holy sword in his hand and then fiercely swung it down. The blade that was as sharp as ice pierced through Jian Wuk's forehead, instantly piercing through his head. Jian Wuk's eyes were wide open as he stared at Yuan. His eyes were filled with unwillingness, resentment, regret, and other complicated emotions. Even until his death, he never imagined that he would actually cause the death of a mid-stage heaven and earth great tribulation trash by just casually attacking him. The difference between life and death was the difference between life and death. After Zhuowen's sword pierced through Jian Wuk's forehead, he slowly pulled out the Taiyu holy sword. He held the blood-stained sword and expressionlessly stepped into the already open city gates of Black City. Originally, the Black City gates were opened for Jian Wuk, but now, Jian Wuk had been killed by Zhuowen, so how could the 2 black-armored cultivators dare to stop Zhuowen? Yen Meng hurriedly followed behind Zhuowen, silently following behind him. Her heart was also filled with apprehension, and her heart was beating extremely fast. The more she understood how powerful Zhuowen was, the more afraid she was of Zhuowen. However, when she realized that Zhuowen had no intention of pursuing the matter, she heaved a sigh of relief. When facing Zhuowen, her attitude became even more respectful, and she did not dare to be impudent in the slightest. The moment he entered Black City, Zhuowen could sense that there were many powerful and obscure auras in this city that was as black as ink. The weakest of these auras were around the early stage of the cosmic Dharma plane, and some of the stronger ones had even reached the peak of the cosmic Dharma plane. Black City was indeed the core of the underground black market. There were actually so many experts gathered here. Black in the city, there was only one wide street, surrounded by inns and residential areas. Most of the cultivators hurrying along the streets were wearing masks and hoods that shielded their divine sense. Zhuowen and Smoky Dream had already prepared the appropriate masks and hoods before entering the underground black market. Only yes, their cultivation levels were really too low. Their auras could still be sensed by many cosmic Dharma adepts that they were cultivators of the Great Tribulation of Qiankuan. At the end of the street stood the most eye-catching black tower. This is the architectural style of this black tower was sharp and angular. It looked like an unsheathed sword that was abnormally sharp. The black tower was the core trading area of Black City. Many experts would take out precious items and enter the black tower to trade. If someone fancied something, the person in charge of the black tower would arrange for both parties to enter a secret room to discuss. Although Smoky Dream had never entered Black City, she had some understanding of it. Zhuowen also knew about Smoky Dream. The main trading in Black City was done in the Black Tower. The inns in Black City were prepared for the cultivators who came from outside. Of course, there were also some experts who bought real estate in Black City and turned it into inns to earn long-term profits. Moreover, the inns in Black City were not ordinary inns. They were extremely rich in chaotic energy and were excellent places to cultivate. This was just enough for many cultivators to wait in Black City and cultivate in the inns. Zhuowen brought Smoky Dream into the Black Tower. Token Zhuowen was helpless. The entrance fee of the Black Tower was extremely expensive. One had to pay 5 million chaos crystals to obtain a Black Tower token. While the Black Tower token only had the authority to enter and exit the Black Tower 50 times. After 50 times, the Black Tower token would disintegrate and become unusable. The Black Tower had a total of 10 levels. Each level had a huge central hall, and there was a huge screen of light in the center of the hall. Light in the screen, there were many scrolling words. The content was basically all kinds of trading items, such as godly medicines, godly tools, godly pills, godly materials, godly talismans, and so on. Behind these trading items, there was a corresponding code name. This code name was the code name of the trading item's owner. If someone fancied the corresponding item, the person in charge of the Black Tower would contact the trading item's owner and arrange for the two to negotiate the trade. The Black Tower would then collect the corresponding service fee. Zhuowen understood. So many experts gathered in Black City, and the Black Tower was still standing. Most likely, its background was very strong. And in the Black Tower, the higher one went, the more precious the trading items displayed. Naturally, the higher the price. Some items could not be bought with money alone. Instead, they required the corresponding precious items to be traded. The ancient abyssal demon stone. When he reached the 6th level of the Black Tower, Zhuowen stopped in front of the central hall, and his eyes fell on the screen of light in the hall. In the center of the screen of light, there was an introduction about the ancient abyssal demon stone, which completely aroused his interest. The ancient abyssal demon stone was born with rich demonic nature. The powerful demonic nature had extremely great side effects for the majority of cultivators. However, to demonic cultivators, the ancient abyssal demon stone was like nectar, which could greatly increase the speed of cultivation of demonic cultivators. The introduction said that the ancient abyssal demon stone could increase the speed of cultivation of demonic cultivators by 2 times. This was extremely shocking. However, The ancient abyssal demon stone was only suitable for demonic cultivators. There were more limitations, so there were not many people who paid attention to it. Although there were hundreds of rivers in the 100 outer realms, demonic cultivators were in the minority. This also caused the ancient abyssal demon stone's position in the Black Tower to be somewhat awkward. No one cared about it. Yuan thought for a moment and walked to the front of the counter closest to the central hall. Standing behind the counter was a good-looking woman. There was a professional smile on her lips. "What kind of item do you want to trade?" the woman asked with a smile. "Ancient abyssal demon stone." Yuan deliberately lowered his voice, which was slightly hoarse. Female Z was startled, then nodded and said, "Sir, please wait for a moment. I will go and call the person in charge of the 6th level." As Z spoke, she stood up and walked toward the depths of the hall. No, after a while, the woman came out with a middle-aged man with a cold gaze. The middle-aged man was not very tall. In fact, he was even shorter than the woman beside him. However, his eyes were extremely sharp, like that of an eagle's. They gave people a very uncomfortable feeling. This person's aura was not weak. He was actually a strong cultivator at the middle stage of the Dharma plane of the universe. "Lord Shangguan, this is the guest who wants to trade the ancient abyssal demon stone." Z walked to the front of the counter and pointed at Yuan with a slender finger as she spoke to the middle-aged man beside her. The middle-aged man glanced at Yuan and had the woman continue to stand guard at her post. Meanwhile, he walked in front of Yuan. Chapter 43-44. "Sir, are you sure you want to trade for the ancient abyssal stone? The side effects of this item are not small. Even a devil cultivator has a lot of drawbacks, not to mention you aren't even a cosmic image," the middle-aged man said bluntly. "It doesn't matter. Even if I don't need it now, it will come in handy when I break through in the future. After all, the ancient abyssal stone is not a cabbage that can be found everywhere. If you miss it this time, you may not have the chance to find it again in the future," Yuan said lightly. The middle-aged man pondered for a moment and continued, "Also, the owner of the ancient abyssal stone doesn't need chaos crystals. He needs second heaven's eternal divine medicines. It would be best if you have a 9-leaf ginseng fruit or a 7-colored lotus root. If you don't have it, other healing divine medicines of the same level are also fine. If you have a second heaven's eternal divine medicine, this deal can be made." While speaking, the middle-aged man looked at Yuan indifferently. After coming out, he saw at a glance that Yuan's cultivation was only at the middle stage of the universe tribulation. Although he wondered how this kid entered the Black City with such a low cultivation, he didn't think much about it. Instead, he put forward the request of the ancient abyssal stone's owner. He believed that after hearing this request, Yuan would definitely back out. After all, Yuan's cultivation was too low. Not to mention second heaven's eternal divine medicines, he was already rich with first heaven's eternal divine medicines. "I have the 7-colored lotus root. You can contact the owner of the ancient abyssal stone." The middle-aged man was surprised that Yuan really had a second heaven's eternal divine medicine. Moreover, it was the 7-colored lotus root that the owner of the ancient abyssal stone urgently needed. "Are you sure? Our Black Tower never lies. Once we do, it's a big crime," the middle-aged man said in a deep voice. "Let's go inside. I can take out the divine medicine for you to identify." Yuan said calmly. "Good. Come with me." The middle-aged man nodded and led Yuan and Yen Meng into the inner room. The area behind the hall was extremely large. There were dozens of private rooms. Occasionally, a few people would walk out of the corresponding private rooms. The middle-aged man brought the two of them to an empty box. It was spacious and comfortable. Furthermore, Yuan noticed that there were many shielding restrictions set up around the box. Yuan took out the 7-colored divine lotus root and handed it to the middle-aged man. Yuan had obtained this rainbow god lotus root from the 7 emotions 6 desires Holy Lord's starlight world. He didn't expect it to come in handy so soon. It is indeed the rainbow divine lotus root. "The two of you, please sit in the box for a while. I'll contact the owner of the ancient abyssal stone." The middle-aged man returned the 7-colored divine lotus root to Yuan. The corners of his mouth revealed a relieved smile as he hurriedly left this place. After the middle-aged man left, Wen summoned Duan Jipeng and Shan Lingyun from the great cosmos. Brother Duan, master, we're already in Zixian Sacred City's black market. You can browse around inside the Black Tower and see if there are any items you want to trade, Zhuan said. Duan Jipeng and Shan Lingyun were already in the great cosmos. They already knew where this place was, so they weren't surprised. After Zhuan briefly introduced the Black Tower to the two of them, he let the two of them leave the box and go to the other levels of the Black Tower. As for him, he continued to sit in the box and wait for the owner of the ancient abyssal stone. Daoyan Meng looked at Zhuan with respect. After Duan Jipeng appeared, she could feel that the latter was also a genuine cosmic avatar expert. His aura was even stronger than Jianwu's. However, Duan Jipeng was very respectful toward Zhuan. From this, it could be seen that Zhuan wasn't simple. Zhuan didn't have to wait for long before the door of the box was opened again. The middle-aged man walked in. Behind him, a man covered in a black robe and wearing a strange mask silently followed behind him. Under the middle-aged man's lead, this person sat opposite Zhuan. The pair of cold eyes exposed by the mask stared coldly at Zhuan. "You're the one who wants to trade the ancient abyssal stone, right?" The black-robed man asked in a low voice. Zhuan glanced at the man in front of him and frowned slightly. For some reason, he felt a strange sense of familiarity from this person. This sense of familiarity was very strange, but he just couldn't remember who this person was. "That's right." Zhuan tossed aside the wild thoughts in his mind and replied indifferently. "The person in charge told me that you have the Rainbow God Lotus root that I need. Give me the Rainbow God Lotus root, and this ancient abyssal stone is yours." As the black-robed man spoke, he took out an irregular pitch-black stone. This stone was half the size of a palm. Its surface had irregular sharp edges, and the stone's surface was engraved with dense runes that were filled with demonic nature. Clang! The moment this stone appeared, Zhuan immediately realized that the limitless demon book in the great cosmos had a strange reaction. As expected, his guess was right. This ancient abyssal stone was indeed of great help to cultivating the limitless demon book. Otherwise, the limitless demon book wouldn't be so excited. Zhuan took out the Rainbow God Lotus root and handed it to the middle-aged man. Medium after the middle-aged man received the Rainbow God Lotus root and the ancient abyssal stone, he carefully examined them and didn't find any problems. He exchanged the two items and handed them to Zhuan and the black-robed man respectively. After the black-robed man carefully examined them, he nodded slightly and put away the Rainbow God Lotus root. "I still have some matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first." After the black-robed man finished speaking, he hurriedly left. While Zhuan, on the other hand, left the room after paying the corresponding service fee. In the hall, Zhuan looked at the black-robed man's back as he hurriedly left, and a thoughtful expression appeared in his eyes. The black-robed man gave him a strange sense of familiarity, but he couldn't remember who this person was. This meant that he wasn't familiar with this person, and they might have only met once. But Zhuan was careful, so after handing over the Rainbow God Lotus root, he secretly left a faint imprint on the Rainbow God Lotus root. After he traded for the divine ship ticket in the Black Tower, he planned to investigate this person's true identity. Ever since he cultivated the primordial technique, Zhuan's intuition had become more and more accurate. In the short period of contact with the black-robed man, his intuition not only gave him a strange sense of familiarity, but also gave him a hint of danger. This meant that this black-robed man was a threat to him, and he wasn't a good person. He had to be careful. Next, Zhuan continued to browse in the Black Tower, and finally, on the 8th floor, he saw the divine ship tickets for sale. There were a total of 3 tickets for sale on the 8th floor, and each ticket was auctioned off. The highest bidder would win. With Zhuan's current status, he really wasn't afraid of competing with money at all. Therefore, during the bidding process, Zhuan finally won one of the tickets to the Void Yama realm at an extremely high price. The departure date of this ticket is 20 days later. It seems that I'll have to wait 20 days before I can take the divine ship to the Void Yama realm. Zhuan looked at the departure date on the ticket and was slightly disappointed. 20 days was still a little long for him, but he couldn't do anything about it. After all, in order to avoid exposing his identity, he could only buy the ticket in the black market. He didn't dare to buy it through the proper channels at all. Next, Zhuan met up with Duan Jipeng and Shan Lingyun. The two of them also traded what they needed in the Black Tower, and their faces were brimming with excitement. In the end, Yuan decided to stay in the Black City for a while until the divine ship set off. Chapter 43-45. After leaving the Black Tower, Zhuowen found a nearby inn that was quite cost-effective and immediately booked a room for a period of 20 days. Duan Jipeng and Shan Lingyun returned to Zhuowen's great world. As for Yan Meng, Zhuowen booked an ordinary room for her. After returning to the room, Zhuowen raised his eyebrows as if he had sensed something. He realized that the little trick he had done to the Rainbow Divine Lotus Root had been triggered. What he had planted in the Rainbow Divine Lotus Root was an undetectable micromonitoring restriction. It would only be activated when the Rainbow Divine Lotus Root was being refined. Now, since the micromonitoring restriction had been activated, it was obvious that the owner of the ancient abyssal rock had begun to refine the Rainbow Divine Lotus Root impatiently. The scenery in front of him gradually changed, and the room around him soon became different. What appeared in front of him was another room. This room was much more luxurious than the one Zhuowen was staying in. In the middle of the room, a middle-aged man with a sinister expression sat cross-legged. Judging from his build, this was the black-robed man that Zhuowen had made a deal with in the Black Tower. However, when Zhuowen's gaze fell on the middle-aged man's face, he couldn't help but be stunned. I didn't expect it to be him. No wonder I felt a sense of familiarity when I made a deal with him back then. Zhuowen muttered to himself. He had indeed seen the black-robed man before, and it was only a chance encounter. Because the black-robed man's true identity was actually Fei Pengze. Fei Pengze's cultivation and strength could only be considered average, but he had a powerful divine ship called the Black God, which greatly increased his battle strength. This left a deep impression on Zhuowen. Only yes, what Zhuowen couldn't understand was that Fei Pengze's identity had been exposed, and he was probably wanted by the Zixien clan now. Why did he still dare to return to the Zixien holy city? Following as the Rainbow Divine Lotus Root was being refined continuously, the scene in front of Zhuowen became more and more blurry. Zhuowen knew that once Fei Pengze completely refined the seven-colored Divine Lotus Root, the miniature restrictions hidden within it would vanish on their own. At that time, the scene would become pitch black. Not long after, when there was only 1/3 of the Rainbow Lotus Root left, Fei Pengze stopped refining. He took out the communication talisman from his waist and looked at the message. His face turned gloomy. He quietly put away the remaining Rainbow Divine Lotus Roots, then walked to the door and gently opened it. Only seeing the two people standing outside the door, they glanced at Fei Pengze and whispered something to him. Fei Pengze then allowed them to enter the room. At this moment, the restrictions on the seven-colored Divine Lotus had become rather damaged, so the images that were transmitted to Zhuowen were incomplete as well. However, Zhuowen was barely able to see the two people outside the door. It's them. What surprised Zhuowen was that he had seen these two people before. Zhuowen had seen them before. He had accidentally met Fu Chen when he had just entered the basin where the Black City was located. At that time, Fu Chen had brought two men to the Black City. However, the two of them were in a hurry and entered the Black City first, leaving Fu Chen to deal with them alone. And these two people were the two cultivators that Fu Chen had led to the Black City. Crippled, the incomplete scene flashed by and completely faded into a blur. However, Zhuowen could still barely hear the voice in Fei Pengze's room. Fei Pengze, you have disappointed that lord this time. I thought that you would be able to bring out the sacred fire source seamlessly, but you still failed and even exposed your identity. Outside, the pale and skinny man who was walking in front walked in first. His pair of vertical pupils stared coldly at Fei Pengze. Fei Pengze frowned slightly and said in a deep voice, "The security of Zixien Sacred City is far from what you can imagine. It's already amazing that I was able to steal the sacred fire source. It's simply a fool's dream to think that I can take it away without alerting the enemy. And the sacred fire source is indeed very magical. After my black god merged with the sacred fire source, Its power increased by more than several times. It was as if it could destroy the heavens and earth. Then how miraculous is the higher level of the sacred fire source? At this point, Fei Pingze's face was full of excitement and he couldn't help but dance with joy. Do I need you to tell me how magical the sacred fire source is? After all, the sacred fire source comes from the sacred fire source. Otherwise, that Lord wouldn't have tried so hard to get this thing. This time, you acted without permission to steal the sacred fire source and alerted the enemy. This made that Lord very dissatisfied. He specifically asked you to make up for your mistakes and help us seize the sacred fire source. The skinny man said indifferently. Fei Pengze frowned slightly and said in a low voice, "The sacred fire source is the core sacred object of the Zixien clan. It is said that it is stored in the core of the Zixien sacred city. The 2 female supremes take turns to guard it, and the 5 saintesses hold a part of the key. If you want to get the sacred fire source, you must first obtain the keys of the 5 saintesses and then enter the core of the sacred city and face a female supremacy. This is simply impossible for us to accomplish." The skinny man sneered and said, "This matter has already been arranged by the Lord. Except for the 3 saintesses, the keys of the other 4 saintesses are already in the Lord's control. Your task now is to steal the keys of the 3 saintesses. For someone like you who has the title of divine thief, this is not difficult." Fei Pengze frowned slightly. With his divine thief technique, it was not difficult to steal the keys of the 3 saintesses. The real difficulty was that after stealing the keys, he would inevitably be discovered. At that time, he would have to face the pursuit of the entire Zixien clan's core powerhouses. That is, under the transformation of the sacred fire source, his black god had become extremely powerful, but he still did not have the confidence to fight against so many powerhouses of the Zixien clan alone. The tall and skinny man saw Fei Pengze's concern and said with a faint smile, "Don't worry, we will be responsible for luring away the saintesses and other high-level powerhouses of the Zixien sacred city. This will be enough to create an opportunity for you to steal the keys of the 3 saintesses." Fei Pengze asked curiously, "Oh? What method do you plan to use? It won't be easy to lure out most of the higher-ups of the Zixien clan and the 5 saintesses." The skinny man smiled and said, "What is the most important and unique property of the Zixien sacred city?" Fei Pengze's pupils shrank and he couldn't help but look at the skinny man and said, "Are you planning to attack the divine ship of the Zixien sacred city?" There were many properties in the Zixien sacred city, but the only one that was unique was the divine ship of the Zixien sacred city. This divine ship. The divine ship was a treasure granted to the Zixien clan by the Supreme Realm, and it was the only way to go to the Supreme Realm. It was this uniqueness that made the Zixien sacred city play a pivotal role in all the realms below the Supreme Realm, becoming the true central hub. And this was also the foundation of the Zixien clan's rapid development and becoming the top powerhouse of the higher realms. If someone really attacked the divine ship, the Zixien clan would indeed mobilize all their forces without the slightest carelessness. Chapter 43-46. Is that Lord also going to make a move? Fei Pengze suppressed the horror in his heart and asked in a low voice. This depends on the situation, but I know that Lord will definitely be present to pay attention to the follow-up development. If the female supreme of the Zixien clan makes a move, he will naturally make a move as well. The skinny man said ambiguously. Good. If so, then I will help you steal the key of the 3rd saintess as agreed. Fei Pengze agreed without hesitation. He knew how terrifying that Lord was. His previous exposure of his identity had already made that Lord unhappy. If he refused this time, what awaited him would be death. Our operation will take place in about half a month. I will inform you through the communication jade when the time comes. I hope you won't disappoint that Lord this time. The skinny man threw a communication jade to Fei Pengze. With a deep look in his eyes, he turned and left, leaving Fei Pengze standing there with a thoughtful look. At the same time, in another room of the inn, Zhuowin's eyes slowly narrowed. The conversation between Pengze and the skinny man, he heard it all without missing a single word. He was not interested in what grudges the so-called Lord had with the Zixuan clan. Even more so, Zhuowen wasn't even interested in their schemes and sabotage at all. But what he cared about was that these guys chose to make a move at this time, and to make a move on the Zixuan sacred city's divine ship. Damn it, why at this time? Fei Pengze frowned and sighed in his heart. His ticket was in 20 days, but these guys made a move in half a month. If they really succeeded, the Zixuan sacred city's divine ship might be damaged, and wouldn't his trip be delayed? From their conversation, Zhuan could tell that the lord they were talking about was at least at the level of Nigu Starlight. It was impossible for Zhuan to compete with a master of this level. If we want to prevent the divine ship from being damaged, then we must inform the Zixuan clan and let them raise their vigilance. Zhuan muttered to himself, frowning slightly. He did not have a good impression of the Zixuan clan. From the actions of the third saintess, it could be seen that the Zixuan clan was not good people. But now, he needed to use the divine warship to travel to the Void Yama realm. If he wanted to protect the divine warship, he could only rely on the Zixuan clan. Judging from the conversation just now, they will make their move half a month later. During this period of time, I'll have Smoky Dream scout out the specific itinerary of the 5 holy maidens in the Black Tower. Zhuowen's eyes flickered. He knew that this news had to be passed on to the saintess of the Zixuan clan. After all, the 5 saintesses were the main managers now. As long as he knew the whereabouts of the 5 saintesses during this period of time, he could secretly approach the saintesses and inform them of this matter. Zhuan summoned Smoky Dream, who was in the room next door, and ordered her to pay attention to the news of the 5 holy daughters in the Black Tower during this period of time. If necessary, she was to buy them at a high price. Although Yan Meng was puzzled as to why Zhuowen had started to pay attention to news about the Holy Maiden, when she thought about how powerful and ruthless he was, she didn't dare to question him. She only dared to silently carry out the tasks that Zhuowen had arranged for her. After Smoky Dream left, Zhuowen set up the corresponding restriction array around the room. Then, he took out the ancient Abyssal Devil Stone. I hope this ancient Abyssal Devil Stone can really help me break through to the second layer of the Limitless Devil Tome. Wen's eyes flickered with anticipation. He began to circulate the Limitless Devil Tome. The rolling demonic energy was like viscous blood, enveloping the ancient Abyssal Devil Stone. The moment the ancient Abyssal Devil Stone came into contact with the demonic energy, it immediately burst out with a strange black light, as if it had suddenly come alive. Waves of pure demonic energy surged over like a reverse tide, enveloping Zhuowen's entire body. Zhuowen immediately discovered that his understanding of the Limitless Devil Tome and the speed of his cultivation increased exponentially, as expected of the ancient Abyssal Devil Stone. According to the current cultivation speed, I'm afraid I'll be able to cultivate to the second layer of the Limitless Devil Tome very quickly. One couldn't help but secretly rejoice. He circulated the Limitless Devil Tome even faster. Time passed faintly, and in the blink of an eye, it was already the 5th day. On this day, Zhuowen's room was filled with dense demonic energy. If not for the various restrictions and arrays in the surroundings, the demonic energy would have annihilated everything within a radius of a few thousand miles. The rolling demonic energy suddenly shrank rapidly. In an instant, it all poured into the body of the young man in the center of the room. The young man had a head of pitch-black hair that was untainted by a speck of dust. He slowly opened his eyes, which flickered with a demonic crimson color, adding to his demonic aura. The effects of the ancient Abyssal Devil Stone far exceeded my expectations. In just 5 days, I've successfully cultivated to the second layer of the Limitless Devil Tome. The young man was Zhuowen. He looked at the black ashes beside his feet, his eyes filled with sighs and laments. After cultivating to the second layer of the Limitless Devil Tome, Zhuowen also discovered that the demonic energy had become stronger. The increase in his own strength had also greatly increased. Even more what surprised Zhuowen was that he had also obtained a new sacred art. This sacred art was called the Demonic Eye. Originally, Zhuowen thought that the Limitless Devil Tome only had one sacred art, and that was the demonic energy. As the limitless devil tome continued to deepen, it only made the demonic energy stronger and stronger. Now from the looks of it, he was completely wrong. It should be that he could obtain a new sacred art without cultivating to a new level of the limitless devil tome. And this new sacred art, the demonic eye, was also extremely extraordinary. It had two powerful eye techniques. One was that it could absorb demonic energy continuously, and during battle, it could release a powerful demonic god statue to fight. And the second was to use one's own demonic energy as fuel, igniting an eternal and indestructible eternal devil flame. This was especially true for the second eye technique. Its power was extremely great, but its side effects were also extremely terrifying. It was a move that harmed the enemy by 1,000 and the user by 800. Other than that, after Zhuan successfully broke through to the second layer of the limitless devil tome, his cultivation had also improved slightly. Originally, his cultivation was at the middle stage of the universe Great Tribulation. Under the boost of the second level of the limitless devil tome, his cultivation reached the peak of the middle stage of the universe Great Tribulation in one go. He wasn't far from the late stage of the universe Great Tribulation. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door, followed by Yan Meng's voice. After opening the door and letting Yan Meng in, when asked in a deep voice, "Any news?" Yan Meng was a little nervous. She nodded and said, "There is little news about the Saintess. This is sensitive information in the underground black market, so there are not many channels. Fortunately, I spent a lot of money yesterday and learned that the Saintess Zilong will be holding a banquet in the Saint Pavilion. She wants to meet an important person. Sir, if you want to find the Saintess Zilong, then you have to go to the Saint Pavilion." Hearing this, Zhuan revealed a thoughtful expression. He just nodded lightly. It seemed that he had to go to the Saint Pavilion. Although, he said that he was not interested in the Saintess Zilong, but this was the key to whether he could smoothly take the divine ship to the Void Yama realm. He had to pass on the plot and plan of Fei Pengze and the others to the Saintess Zilong. Chapter 43-47. The Saint Pavilion was very famous in Zixien Holy City. It was one of the top 3 pavilions in Zixien Holy City. In the Saint Pavilion, every inch of land was worth its weight in gold. The expenses were extremely high. Only the rich could afford to set up a banquet in the Saint Pavilion. Of course, the Saint Pavilion was so famous and the expenses were so extravagant. Naturally, it was because its background was not low. Otherwise, the Saint Pavilion would have been suppressed secretly. When Zhuan arrived at the Saint Pavilion with Yan Meng, Shan Lingyun, Duan Jipeng, and Sherpadian, they found that the Saint Pavilion was very lively. Many cultivators with strong auras were invited into the Saint Pavilion. According to Yan Meng's information, the Zilong Saintess had set up a banquet in the Saint Pavilion's third Saint Pavilion tonight to entertain important guests. Therefore, when Zhuan was in the underground black market, he spent a high price to buy the right to use the fourth Saint Pavilion. Although the Saint Pavilion was extravagant, it was still a place for banquets. In the underground black market, these things that could be bought with money were actually the most worthless. Once they entered the Saint Pavilion, Yun took out the Saint Pavilion's fourth Saint Pavilion token and was immediately led into the Saint Pavilion. The one who led them was a beautiful maid. The latter's clothes were quite revealing. The tight cheongsam outlined her beautiful curves incisively and incisively. As she walked in front, she was exceptionally seductive. "Distinguished guests, please come in." XW8 When they arrived at the door of the fourth Saint Pavilion, the beautiful maid had a charming smile on her face. A pair of limpid eyes stared firmly at Zhuan. She was straightforward and explicit. The fourth Saint Pavilion was extremely large and decorated with gold and jade. Inside the pavilion, there were already 8 graceful maids in a row, waiting for the arrival of the pavilion's owner. After Zhuan let Duan Jipeng and the others enter first, he whispered to the maid who led the way, "I have something I need you to do. If you can successfully complete it, I will reward you with a yin-yang spiritual pill." The servant's eyes flashed with elation. She was only at the 5 elements transformation stage, and she was only 1 step away from the 6 heaven-crushing transformations, the yin-yang transformation stage. Right now, She only lacked one yin-yang spiritual pill to successfully break through. However, the yin-yang spiritual pill was too expensive for her. She would need to work for decades without eating or drinking to save enough money to buy it. Now, this demonic cultivator with unfathomable strength actually promised to give her a yin-yang divine pill. How could she not be pleasantly surprised? Young master, you're really generous. As long as young master can give this servant a yin-yang spirit pill, this servant is willing to do anything. The beautiful maid's autumn eyes were glistening with tears, and her graceful snow-white body couldn't help but stick to Zhuan. She breathed into Zhuan's ear, soft and sweet. Zhuan expressionlessly pushed the maid away and said in a low voice, "You may have misunderstood. What I want you to do is not what you think." As he spoke, Zhuan took out a jade slip and said to the maid, "Later, when the owner of Sage Room 3 arrives, secretly place this jade slip on the tray of dishes and send it to Room 3. If you complete it, I will give you a yin-yang spiritual pill afterwards." The beautiful maid blushed with shame. She knew that she had misunderstood Zhuowen's meaning, but she quickly returned to normal, and her eyes revealed hesitation. Although her position in the Sage Pavilion wasn't high, she knew that those who could host a banquet in the first 3 rooms of the Sage Pavilion were all important figures. If the information in this jade slip was normal, then it would be fine, but if it wasn't, wouldn't she be in trouble if the important figure in room 3 became angry? You can rest assured that the information in the jade slip is good news for the person in room 3. If she is in a good mood, she can even reward you. Of course, if you don't want to, I won't force you. Later, I will find other maids to help me complete this task," Zhuowen said calmly. The beautiful maid thought for a while, and finally accepted the jade slip. She said solemnly, "Sir, don't worry, Yingying will definitely not disappoint you." After the beautiful maid Yingying left, Zhuowen safely entered the number 4 private room. Next, the maids of the Sage Pavilion began to serve plates of exotic delicacies, and the service of the maids standing around was very considerate. This Sage Pavilion is indeed worthy of its reputation. Their dishes contain extremely rich energy essence. Eating these dishes will be of great benefit to one's qi, blood, and cultivation. Duan Jipeng took a sip of the sweet divine wine and said in amazement, "Delicious, really delicious." Shan Lingyun and Sherpadian fought to be the first to grab the dishes, wolfing them down as if they were afraid of being robbed. Yan Meng, on the other hand, was absent-mindedly chewing and swallowing. She looked at Zhuowen from time to time, and then looked at Duan Jipeng and the rest without saying a word. While Zhuowen and the others were silently waiting for the news in Sage Room 4, a beautiful maid brought 4 people to Sage Room 3 next to them. Among the 4 people, the leader was a beautiful woman in a luxurious dress. She was the 3rd holy maiden, Zilong. At this moment, Zilong was talking and laughing with the 3 people beside her. The 3 people were an old man with an antique lamp, a demonic woman with scarlet lips, and a middle-aged man with a horsetail whisk. "The 3 of you are willing to come to my banquet? It is Zilong's honor." Zilong smiled happily, and her attitude towards the 3 people was extremely polite. After all, the 3 of them were from the Supreme Region, and she didn't dare to neglect them. "We have troubled you this time, Holy Maiden Zilong. Not only have you prepared first-class tickets for us, but you have also personally received us." The old man with the antique lamp said politely, but his attitude was quite arrogant. After the 4 of them sat down, the maid in the room immediately poured tea and wine for them. The service was considerate, and it was meticulous. "The 3 of you, I heard that you've been tracking a rogue cultivator named Zhuowen. What's the origin of this person? He actually caused you to mobilize so many people." Zilong raised her wine cup, and after toasting to the 3 people, she asked curiously, "That Zhuowen is just a nobody. It's mainly because he has mastered some kind of strange secret technique that allows him to be completely silent. Even we can't track his aura." The middle-aged Taoist with the horsetail whisk snorted coldly. "Oh, what kind of secret technique is that even the 3 of you together can't see through?" Zilong was surprised, and she became more and more curious about Tun. The 3 people in front of her were all at the peak of the Dharma plane of the universe. In terms of cultivation, they were similar to her, but their strength was stronger than hers. She also heard that Zhuan's cultivation was only at the Qiankuan tribulation level, but he could easily escape from the three of them. She had to admit that this person was not simple. Chapter 43-48. This boy can turn himself into invisible water and blend into the earth, rivers and so on. Then, with the help of the water flow or other things, he can move quickly and escape. Moreover, after he turns into invisible water, his aura completely disappears and we can't distinguish him at all. The bewitching woman with scarlet lips said in a deep voice. Zilong, who was originally indifferent, suddenly narrowed her eyes after hearing the bewitching woman's description. She immediately thought of the group of people she met in the Shuran domain. She remembered that the leader of that group of people had a strange secret technique that allowed him to transform into invisible water. At that time, she didn't care, but now that the bewitching woman mentioned it, she immediately thought of it. The three of you, is the Zhuan you mentioned this person? Zilong sketched out Zhuan's general appearance based on her impression of him at that time and showed it to the three of them. The three of them who were originally calm, after seeing the portrait that Zilong sketched with her fingers, completely lost their calm and stood up excitedly. Saint Zilong, have you seen this boy before? The old man asked while breathing heavily. Zilong nodded and told them everything that happened in the Shuran domain. Shuran domain? What is this boy doing in the Shuran domain? After the three of them calmed down, they all fell into deep thought. The Shuran domain was a long distance away from the Zixien domain. They must use the ancient transmission formation to travel a long distance to reach there. However, the Shuran domain was not too far away from the Nuwa domain. Thinking of how they did not find Zhuan around the Nuwa domain, it was very likely that the latter was hiding in the Shuran domain. Saint Zilong, thank you for the clue. We have to make a trip to the Shuran domain. If we can catch Zhuan, we will definitely come back to thank you. The three of them stood up and immediately bade farewell to Zilong. Without any hesitation, they left room number 3. Zilong was stunned. She didn't expect the three of them to leave just like that, which made her feel very embarrassed. However, she didn't dare to ask them to stay because the three of them were of high status. They were already giving her a lot of face by attending her banquet. Just as the three of them left, a group of beautiful maids entered the room while carrying plates of exquisite dishes. The maid called Yingying was among them. Yingying deliberately walked to Zilong's side and put down the tray in her hands. Zilong, who was still in a daze, inadvertently noticed the inconspicuous jade slip on the tray. XWH she looked at Yingying indifferently and said, "Who told you to give this to me?" Yingying lowered her head and respectfully said, "A senior told me to give this to you. He said that there is urgent news inside. If you don't read it, he said that you will regret it." However, Zilong laughed. What a boastful tone. If I don't see it, I'll regret it. Although Zilong did not take it seriously, she still picked up the jade slip on the tray and sent a part of her divine sense into the jade slip. After she finished reading, her face suddenly became extremely serious. "Where is the person who gave you the jade slip?" Zilong suddenly stood up and asked Yingying. "That senior said that if you trust him, then I will bring him to you," Yingying said softly. Zilong's beautiful eyes flashed and she said in a deep voice, "Bring him here." Yingying bowed and left the 3rd private room. She brought the news to Zhuawen, who was in the 4th private room. "You did well. This is the yin-yang divine pill." In the 4th room, Zhuan was very satisfied after listening to Yingying's report and handed the yin-yang divine pill to Yingying. The yin-yang divine pill was just a divine pill that could break the heaven's 6 changes. To the current Zhuan, it was worthless. Naturally, he wouldn't be stingy. After Yingying received the yin-yang divine pill, she brought Zhuan back to the 3rd room. Of course, in order to confuse the public, Zhuan deliberately let Yingying walk around the Saint Pavilion before coming to the 3rd room. The Saint Pavilion's security measures were very good. Every room had a restriction that blocked divine sense. Therefore, when Zhuan came out of the 3rd room, he was not afraid of being detected by Zilong's divine sense in the 4th room. After Zhuan entered the 3rd room, Zilong dismissed all the maids in the room and pointed to the seat opposite her. Zhuan nodded and sat opposite Zilong, silently waiting for the latter to speak. How should I address you? Zilong looked at the young demonic cultivator in front of her who was full of demonic nature and whose eyes were shining with a demonic red light. There was some doubt in her eyes. She always felt that the young demonic cultivator in front of her gave her a strange sense of familiarity. My name is not important. What is important is whether or not Saintess Zilong believes the information I gave you. Zhuowen said lightly. You said that in half a month, someone will attack the divine ship. How are you going to prove that what you said is true? Zilong's expression was extremely serious. The divine ship was an extremely important means of transportation for Zixian's sacred city. At the same time, it was also one of the most heavily guarded places. For many years, many people had the idea of attacking the divine ship, but in the end, they all returned in failure. Therefore, she did not think that there would be anyone who would dare to attack the divine ship of Zixian's sacred city. I can swear to the heavens that what I said is true. If you still don't believe me, then I have nothing to say. Zhuowen shrugged and said lightly. In Zhuowen's opinion, he had already sworn to the heavens. This Zilong should believe him. Zilong was silent for a moment. She looked up at Zhuowen and said coldly, If you want me to believe you, swearing to the heavens is not enough. At least you have to first state your identity. Also, why are you telling me this information? What is your purpose? Zhuowen frowned. This Zilong was going too far. He was not her prisoner, so he had no obligation to reveal all of his secrets. That's all I have to say. If you don't believe me, then I have nothing to say. Zhuowen stood up. He did not want to argue with Zilong anymore. This woman was too self-centered. No matter how much he said to her, it would be useless. Did I say you could leave? Stop right there. Follow me back to the law enforcement hall immediately. If you release the memory of your divine soul for us to see, we will believe what you said. Zilong stood up and stood in front of Zhuowen as she said self-righteously. You still want to search my soul? Zhuowen's eyes turned completely cold. He really did not expect Zilong to be so crazy. She actually wanted to search the soul of a person who came to warn her out of kindness before she believed him. She did not take his life seriously at all. I am not a member of your Zixian clan. I have no obligation to search your soul. Zhuowen said coldly. You are now in Zixian's sacred city. Here, the power of the Holy Maiden is greater than anything else. Whatever I ask, you must obey unconditionally. Even if I want you to die, you will die. If you don't want to be wanted by my Zixian clan, you better listen to me. Otherwise, you will not be able to leave Zixian's sacred city at all. Zilong sneered. You are really hopeless. Zhuowen did not want to argue with Zilong. This was a selfish and stupid woman who was completely self-centered. It was useless for him to say anything more. After that, Zhuowen quickly rushed to the door of the box. Where do you think you are going? Zilong stretched out her slender hand and blasted Zhuowen with her palm. Suddenly, Zhuowen was hit hard and embedded into the side wall. She quickly closed in and pinched Zhuowen's neck with her right hand. However, her hand was cold and thick. Puppet! Zilong looked at Zhuowen, who was embedded in the wall with lifeless eyes. She let go of her hand and her face became extremely gloomy. Chapter 43-49. In room 4, a strand of invisible water gradually condensed into a human figure. Duan Jipeng, Shan Lingyun, and the others, who were eating heartily, immediately stopped eating. Their eyes became serious. Water invisible escape was Zhuowen's secret skill to save his life. If there was no crisis, Yuan would not use this secret skill casually. Brother Zhuo, did things not go well? Duan Jipeng asked first. Enter the macro world first. After you leave here, I will tell you in detail. Zhuowen's face was gloomy. He sent away all the maidservants in the room and opened the entrance to the macro world, taking Duan Jipeng and the others in. After doing this, he turned into a puddle of invisible water again and quietly left the Saint Pavilion. Not long after Zhuo Gang left, the door to room number 4 was forced open by someone and a group of guards swarmed in. Behind the guards, Zilong walked in slowly. Behind her, there was a middle-aged woman who was still attractive. The middle-aged woman was the pavilion master of the Saint Pavilion, Tao Hongji. Why are they gone? Tao Hongji looked around and her beautiful eyes became extremely strange. The maidservants in room 4, who had been sent away by Zhuan, knelt in front of Tao Hongji. Pavilion master, the group of guests in the room were still in there. Now, in the blink of an eye, they are gone. This has nothing to do with us. The maidservants were trembling in fear as they explained. Later, naturally, someone will take care of you. Bring Ying in. Tao Hongji said coldly. No, after a while, 2 cultivators walked in with Ying, who was tied up. Saint Zilong, this girl is yours to deal with. Tao Hongji said. Tao Hongji looked at Zilong, who was beside her, and a flattering smile appeared on her face. Tell me, what is the background of that young demonic cultivator? Why did you help him pass the message? As long as you can give me a satisfactory answer, not only will you not be guilty, but you will also have done a great service. Zilong came to Ying's side and caressed Ying's cheeks with her slender hands. Ying's beautiful face turned pale with fright. She was at a loss of what to do. Stuttering, she told her father about the conversation she had with Zhuan. Just because of a yin-yang divine pill, you helped him pass on a message. You don't know his background? Zilong's face darkened. Ying lowered her head and grunted. Before she could react, she was hit in the face by a gust of wind. She screamed and lost consciousness. Tao Hongji looked at Ying's body that was gradually turning cold. He sighed softly in his heart, but he did not dare to show his dissatisfaction. If the Saint Pavilion could continue to exist in Zixian Sacred City, it must rely on the 5 saints, so she did not dare to offend any of the saints. Peach Pavilion Lord, I'm really sorry to trouble you to come out personally this time. I still have some matters to attend to, so I'll be heading back first. Without waiting for Tao Hongji's reply, Long flicked his sleeves and left. Tao Hong looked at Zilong's back as she left. Her heart was filled with bitterness. She knew that what had happened today had caused Zilong to be dissatisfied with her and the Saint Pavilion. It seemed that she would have to spend a lot of effort to make up for today's mistakes. After leaving the Saint Pavilion, Zhuan's face was very gloomy. He really did not expect that Zilong, this woman, could be so unreasonable. After confirming that Zilong hadn't chased after him, Zhuan chose a rather remote inn in Zixian Sacred City to stay. He did not know if Zilong would pass on the news he had told her, but he had no other choice now. He could only wait silently for the arrival of the departure day of the divine ship. One in the blink of an eye, another 3 days passed. Zhuan found that Zixian Sacred City's security had not been strengthened. Instead, in the Sacred City, his arrest warrant began to appear. It seems that Zilong did not take your words seriously. Now that she has put you on the wanted list, this is really bad. In the inn, in a spacious room, Yun, Jiu Yuan, Duan Jipeng and others were gathered here. It was Duan Jipeng who had just spoken. Zhuan's eyes flashed with a trace of hostility. If he was not in Zixian Sacred City now, he really wanted to teach Zilong, this stinking woman, a lesson. I don't care what kind of attack Zixian Sacred City will suffer. I'm just worried that the next attack will affect the divine ship. If the divine ship is destroyed in the attack, I'm afraid the date of my trip to the Void Yama realm will be delayed again. Yuan was at his wit's end. Originally, his itinerary was perfect, but halfway through, there was a Qing Yao Jin, which made him quite helpless. Master, I have a way. Suddenly, Jiu Yuan, who had been silent, stood up as if he had made up his mind. You have a way? Zhuan looked at Jiu Yuan in surprise. As far as he knew, Jiu Yuan was just a down-and-out array master. He was only a specialized array master in the Di Luo city of the Nuwa realm. And the Nuwa realm and Zixian realm are hundreds of thousands of miles apart. How did Jiu Yuan get involved with the Zixian clan? Here's the thing. In fact, my family is a family of arrays used by the Zixian clan. In Zixian Sacred City, the large and small arrays and prohibitions are all from the family behind me. My grandmother, who is also the current clan leader, has a good relationship with the great holy maiden. If my grandmother is willing to help, Maybe the great holy maiden will pay attention to your news. Jiao Yuan said in a deep voice. Jing, after the explanation and narration of Jiao Yuan, Yuan finally knew that Jiao Yuan's life was so extraordinary. Jiao, originally from the Leizhen clan of Zixian's sacred city, the ancestors of this family are said to have been enlightened in the thunder tribulation and comprehended the unique thunder array technique. Since then, their descendants have called themselves the Leizhen clan. They are good at combining thunder and arrays to form a special thunder array technique, which is an extremely overbearing array technique. While Jiao Yuan, who is the 183rd generation of the Leizhen clan, is also the legitimate son of this generation, has the priority to inherit the position of the Leizhen clan's clan leader. But Jiao Yuan's talent in arrays is not good. What makes him even more desperate is that he has no talent in thunder arrays. He has been practicing thunder arrays since he was a child, and his progress is minimal. It is because his talent in thunder arrays is far weaker than that of others of the same age, so he is often laughed at, and even many people secretly criticize him as a waste, and he is not qualified to inherit the position of the Leizhen clan's clan leader in the future. Jiao Yuan was so discouraged that even he began to doubt himself, and began to give up on himself. Finally, he escaped his past, secretly left his family, left the Zixian realm, came to the distant Nuwa realm, and lived in seclusion in the Di Luo city. Originally, Jiao Yuan thought that he would live alone in the Di Luo city and never step into the Zixian sacred city. Most finally, he met Zhuon. His talent in arrays is average, but his perception of arrays is extremely keen. At the beginning, although Zhuowen's array skills were only one level higher than his, he could see that Zhuowen's array skills were extraordinary. Bookmark for easy reading. Chapter 4350. Zhuowen's formation is a new kind of formation that he has never seen so far. It is different from the mainstream formation and his family's thunder formation. In his hunch, Zhuowen's formation is even connected to all the mainstream formations and thunder formations, so he resolutely and shamelessly worshipped Zhuowen as a teacher. He hopes to learn the new formation from Zhuowen, rekindle his hope, and climb to the peak of the formation. And Zhuowen indeed didn't disappoint him. During this period of time, Zhuowen would occasionally discuss the Tao of formations with him. Every time, Zhuowen would say something shocking that benefited him greatly. And his array Tao was about to break through to the second sky of Eternal Realm. The Thunder Array Clan? Jiao Yuan, are you sure you can make your grandmother listen to you? Zhuowen asked. Jiao Yuan smiled bitterly. I will try my best. I have been away from home for too long. I don't know if the family head is still my grandmother. Zhuowen thought for a moment and said in a deep voice, Well, I will go to the Thunder Array Clan with you. If there is any accident, I can help you. Although Jiao Yuan didn't say much about the reason why he left home, Zhuowen can guess that his people are not very good to him and may even be malicious. In addition, Jiao Yuan has been away from home for so long, if he returns to the Thunder Array Clan again, there may be some accidents. Jiao Yuan nodded and did not refuse. He knows that Zhuowen is extremely strong, and almost no one can hurt him under the ancient starlight. Moreover, Zhuowen's formation level is extremely powerful. Although it may be slightly inferior to his grandmother, his new formation is extremely powerful and can make up for some of the gap in level. Even if Zhuowen is worse than his grandmother, it should not be a big gap. Yes, after making the decision, Zhuowen went to the Thunder Array Clan with Jiao Yuan. Because Zhuowen is still wanted, Zhuowen used the power of the ancient Hongmeng method to change his appearance and breath again, and then silently followed Jiao Yuan to leave the inn and go to the Thunder Array Clan. Thunder the Formation Clan's land was located southwest of the Purple Jade's sacred city. Purple the Xian clan treated the Leizhen clan very well. They gave the Leizhen clan an extremely vast piece of land in the southwest. Half of the southwest corner of the holy city was the territory of the Lightning Array clan. This was equivalent to the size of a Sure-Ran divine city. Looking at the behemoth-like high wall in front of him and the huge city with people coming and going, it was indeed worthy of being the area second only to the core area of the Zixian clan in Zixian's sacred city. The members of the Lightning Array clan all wore long robes with the symbol of lightning on them, which showed that they were members of the Lightning Array clan. When they arrived at the city gate of the Thunder Array clan's land, an old man with white hair slowly walked out under the escort of a group of people. The old man was also wearing a long robe with the symbol of thunder. Many of the younger generation of the Thunder Array clan surrounded him. Their eyes were filled with reverence and fanaticism. Clearly, this old man's position in the Lightning Array clan was not low. Jiao Yuan. The old man glanced at the city gate casually, and his sharp eyes suddenly became sluggish, staring at the Jiao Yuan standing not far from the city gate. He didn't care about the many young juniors surrounding him and ran over ecstatically. He came to the Jiao Yuan, his hands fell on the shoulders of the Jiao Yuan excitedly, and he couldn't say a word for a long time. The Jiao Yuan looked at the old man in front of him with complicated eyes and smiled. Ling Su, I really haven't seen you for a long time. In a blink of an eye, you are so old. The old man named Ling Su shook his head and laughed. Aren't you old too? Tens of thousands of years have passed. Where have you been? Do you know how long I have been looking for you? Zhuemo looked at the old friends in front of him. Whether it is the Jiao Yuan or Ling Su, most of their energy is focused on the cultivation of formations. Their own cultivation is not high, or even very weak. In the past 10,000 years, their level of formations has improved, but their cultivation base has not grown much, and the upper limit of their lifespan has not increased, so they cannot maintain their young appearance, and have become as old as they are now. Of course, there are also many guys with high cultivation base who deliberately make their faces look like old men, which is completely a matter of personal preference. Ling Su, my grandmother. Is she still alive? The Jiao Yuan asked in a complicated tone. The old tribe chief has always been thinking about you. She waited for you for tens of thousands of years, but you didn't come back. Finally, she resigned from the position of tribe chief and entered the Thunder Source diagram. Ling Su sighed. What? She entered the Thunder Source diagram? When was that? The Jiao Yuan asked with a big change in his face. Half a year ago. Now the new tribe chief of our Lightning Array clan is Chen Yin. The Jiao Yuan, if you came back half a year ago at that time, the old tribe chief would still pass the position of tribe chief to you, but now. Hey. When Ling Su said this, he gave a long sigh, and he looked like he hated iron for not becoming steel. Although you and Chen Yin have never dealt with each other before, now that Chen Yin has become the new tribe chief, he has also said that if you come back, he will welcome you as the new tribe chief at any time. Moreover, under his leadership, our Lightning Array clan has been flourishing for the past half a year. Now that you are back, let's go into the city first. I will inform tribe chief Chen Yin. Ling Su said he pulled the Jiao Yuan into the Lightning Array clan, and Zhuowen followed silently. On the way, Zhuowen finally found out what the so-called Thunder Origin Array diagram was. The Thunder Source diagram is a relic left by the ancestors of the Lightning Array clan. It is said that this diagram contains the true meaning of the Thunder Array. If whoever can comprehend the true meaning contained in the Thunder Source diagram can become the real master of the Thunder Source diagram. After resigning from the position of tribe chief, the tribe chief of the Lightning Array clan will enter the Thunder Source diagram to comprehend, hoping to comprehend the true meaning. Even more, they had even set an unwritten rule that if any of the clan leaders who entered the Thunder Origin Array diagram could not comprehend the true essence, they would not be able to take half a step out of the Thunder Origin Array diagram until they died. The Jiao Yuan's grandmother, the last tribe chief, could not come out at the moment when she stepped into the Thunder Source diagram, unless she comprehended the true meaning of the Thunder Source diagram. Zhuowen sighed in his heart. He was really unlucky. He thought he could get in touch with the Jiao Yuan's grandmother and ask the latter to help deliver the news, but he didn't expect this method to work. After Ling Su led the two to the hall of the tribe chief's mansion, he ordered the servants to inform them of the current tribe chief Chen Yin, and then he chatted with the Jiao Yuan. Jiao Ren was in a daze as he went along with Zhuowen. His heart was filled with guilt toward Zhuowen. He still couldn't help Zhuowen in any way. After a while, an old man who was younger than the Jiao Yuan and Ling Su came to the hall under the leadership of the servants. The old man's hair was half gray, but his face was ruddy, his eyes were sharp, and he walked like a dragon and tiger. He had the momentum of a superior. As soon as he came in, his eyes fell on the Jiu Yuan. He walked up quickly and said with a hearty smile, "Cousin, you finally went home. No matter how much grievance you have suffered in the past, it is already in the past. After all, we are from the same family. It is good that you are back. I used to be insensible, thank you for your trouble." The Jiu Yuan responded with a smile. Chapter 43:51. Jiu Yuan, who is this? Chen Yin sat opposite the Jiu Yuan, looked at Zhuowen next to the Jiu Yuan with a smile, and asked with a smile. When the Jiu Yuan just wanted to introduce him, Zhuowen took the lead in answering, "My name is Emowen, I am a friend of the Jiu Yuan on the road. Because I am also a formation priest, I have a lot of common topics with the Jiu Yuan. This time, I also admired your Thunder Array clan, so I came to the Thunder Array clan with brother Jiu Yuan. It's just a pity that the old clan chief actually entered the Thunder Source formation of the two people and couldn't see them." Chen Yin was not surprised by Zhuowen's answer. Although the Jiu Yuan's formation level is average, he is extremely fanatical about formation. Those who can become friends with him are naturally people in this field. "Oh, brother Emowen, now I am the new clan chief. Although my current level of formation is still some distance away from the previous clan chief, it is only a matter of time to catch up with the latter." Talking about his own level of formation, Chen Yin's eyes showed a proud color. He waved his right hand at will, and a fish-like pattern spread from his cuff. Only seeing that the pattern condensed into a small teleportation formation, two servants were teleported in by him. They were also carrying trays with various wines, treasures, and so on. The two servants were not surprised. When they walked out of the small teleportation formation, they respectfully served tea and water to several people present. The service was very thoughtful. Jiu Yuan's pupils shrank imperceptibly, and Chen Yin's casual move did not deliberately conceal his own level of formation. At a glance, it can be seen that Chen Yin's level of formation has reached the eternal second heaven, and it is not the early stage, it is likely to be the late stage or even the peak. Jiu Yuan's heart was bitter. Chen Yin is really talented. As a peer, Chen Yin's level is higher than his. It is no wonder that he can become the new clan chief of the Thunder Array clan. Clan Chief Chen Yin, this time, I actually have a presumptuous request. Brother Jiu Yuan and the old clan chief have been separated for a long time. His wish now is to see the old clan chief again and solve the regret of that year. Zhuowen suddenly said. Celestial Yin frowned slightly, pondered for a moment, and said, "Brother Emowen, I can naturally see the longing of cousin Jiu Yuan, but you may not know the details of the Thunder Source map. After the old patriarch enters the Thunder Origin Array diagram, if she is unable to comprehend the true essence within, she will not be able to leave the Thunder Origin Array diagram. This is the ancestral rule of the Thunder Array clan." The Jiu Yuan also looked at Zhuowen doubtfully. He didn't know why Zhuowen suddenly mentioned it. After the old tribe chief entered the Thunder Source diagram, they had no chance to meet him again. This time, they came to the Thunder Array clan for nothing, so Zhuowen suddenly mentioned it, which made the Jiu Yuan a little confused about Zhuowen's thoughts. According to what you're saying, as long as the true essence of the Thunder Origin Array diagram is comprehended by anyone, then the Thunder Origin Array diagram's old patriarch will be able to come out? Zhuowen asked. Chen Yin's eyes narrowed. He looked deeply at Zhuowen and said in a low voice, "In theory, yes. I don't know why Brother Emowen asks this. I want to try it. I am not a member of your Thunder Array clan. That is to say, I do not have to abide by your ancestral rules. Even if I do not comprehend the true essence of the Thunder Origin Array diagram, I can leave on my own. Once I comprehend it, I will give you the true meaning I have comprehended without reservation, but I need the old patriarch to do something for us." At this point, Zhuowen was quite helpless. Now he has no other way, he can only do this. The Thunder Origin Array diagram is the secret of my Thunder Array clan. How can it be touched by outsiders? Chen Yin waved his sleeve and flatly refused. "Cousin Chen Yin, I hope you can let Brother Emowen try. His formation is unique and extremely extraordinary. He may really comprehend the true essence of the Thunder Origin Array diagram. Moreover, The Thunder Origin Array diagram has been placed in the clan for countless years, and the successive generations of patriarchs have not been able to comprehend it. This thing has become a symbol and even a burden for our Thunder Array clan. If you can unlock the secret of the Thunder Source diagram, my Malaysian family will be really strong. At that time, you will be a great hero in the history of our Malaysian family, and you will be famous in history. The Jiu Yuan said sincerely. He has faintly understood Zhuowen's idea. Although he is not very optimistic that Zhuowen can comprehend the true meaning of the Thunder Origin Array diagram, at present, this is the only way to let his grandmother leave the Thunder Origin Array diagram. Chen fell into silence. The emotions in his eyes were complicated. He was thinking and hesitating whether to consider the words of the Jiu Yuan. The original words are not wrong. The Thunder Origin Array diagram has indeed become a burden for their Thunder Array clan. Previous patriarchs have not been able to comprehend the true meaning of the Thunder Origin Array diagram, so many of their lives have not completely reached the end, and they are unwilling to come out and stay in the Thunder Origin Array diagram for a long time. And this has also led to the real formation masters of the Thunder Array clan being firmly trapped in the ancestral teachings, making the Thunder Array clan worse generation by generation, and almost even the inheritance will be broken. Chen is very clear that if this continues, the Thunder Array clan will eventually be reduced to a second-rate formation family. At that time, I am afraid that they will be abandoned by the Zishuan clan. It's not impossible to let you try, but you must first swear to the heavens. Not only can you not disclose the information inside the Thunder Origin Array diagram, but if you can really comprehend the true meaning, then you must unconditionally tell us the Thunder Array clan. Chen finally made up his mind and planned to let Zhuowen try. Of course, he didn't think that Zhuowen could really comprehend the true meaning of the Thunder Origin Array diagram. After all, this is something that their Thunder Array clan's patriarchs have not been able to do. Next, Zhuowen and the Jiu Yuan, led by Chen entered the forbidden area of the Thunder Array clan, the Thunder Pool. The so-called Thunder Pool is a small basin with an area of tens of kilometers. This basin was filled with dense and boundless lightning energy. There were thunderstorms that were like storms, and there were also countless lightning bolts that intertwined together to form a liquid thunderstorm. There were also several lightning dragons that roared and soared above the basin. As soon as Zhuowen came to the basin, he immediately noticed a huge stone tablet standing in the center of the basin. Sure, on the surface of the tablet, there is a huge pattern. Looking carefully, the lines outlined by this pattern are more like a complex and demonic array diagram. Zhuowen keenly felt that this stone tablet is the core of the Thunder Pool. Whether it is the thunderstorm, the strange thunder rain, or the winding thunder dragons, they all avoid the stone tablet intentionally or unintentionally. This also made the stone tablet a rare quiet place in the Thunder Pool. The array diagram in the stone tablet is the Thunder Origin Array diagram. In the Thunder Origin Array diagram, it is a world of its own. The patriarchs of the past have directly entered the Thunder Origin Array diagram to comprehend the true meaning of it. At the edge of the ground, Chen pointed to the core, the only stone tablet that was not disturbed by the thunder energy, and said to Zhuowen and the Jiu Yuan beside him, "Brother Mowen, follow me closely, don't be 5 steps away from me. The Thunder Pool only recognizes the Patriarch's order. If there is no Patriarch's order, the Thunder Pool will destroy any creature that enters it." Chen turned to look at Zhuowen beside him. Zhuowen nodded, but he was not very worried. The energy of the Thunder Pool is powerful and terrifying, but with Zhuowen's current strength, the Thunder Pool is not enough to kill him. Of course, since Chen is leading the way, why should he go through the trouble? Chapter 43-52. Is this the Thunder Array diagram? When he arrived in front of the stone tablet, Zhuowen stretched out his right hand and stroked the complex and strange array diagram in front of the stone tablet. His eyes showed a dignified expression. The Thunder Array diagram was definitely the most complex of all the arrays he had ever seen. He could only understand a small part of it. Chen had been paying attention to Zhuowen. When he found that Zhuowen's eyes showed some confusion, he was quite disappointed. He knew that the good friend of the Jiuyuan in front of him could not even fully understand the surface of the array diagram. It was simply impossible to enter the thunder array diagram to understand the true meaning of it. And although Yin was disappointed, he was not too rude. Instead, he said in a deep voice, "Brother Mo1, if you think it's not possible, just give up. I'll take you back the same way." "I'll give it a try," Zhuowen said with a smile. Chenin said helplessly, "In that case, I wish you good luck. If you want to give up, just send me a message. I'll come and pick you up." After speaking, Chen Yin did not wait for Zhuowen to answer. He held the patriarch's order and walked back. The fingertips of Wen's right hand gently fell on the center of the stone tablet array diagram. He sensed an indescribable call. He did not resist this call. His whole body and mind were immersed in it. Then he disappeared in front of the stone tablet. When he opened his eyes again, he found that he had come to a strange space. This space, there was no sky, no earth, and it was boundless. The entire space was in a primitive state of chaos. In this state of chaos, the only thing that existed was the occasional flash of huge lightning in the depths of the darkness. The thunderbolt struck down, bringing with it an instant of light, but also a loud clamor. Zhuowen's gaze fell on the lightning that suddenly flashed in the distance. He suddenly found that when the lightning fell, there were dense and complex array patterns in the trajectory of the lightning. Zhuowen was deep in thought. He vaguely understood that perhaps the secret of the thunder array diagram should be the strange lightning that suddenly flashed in this space. He silently observed the lightning that flashed from time to time. The lightning was far and near, but the array patterns left in the trajectory of each lightning strike were completely different. Zhuowen knew his own limits. He knew that with his current level of array formation, it was simply wishful thinking for him to completely comprehend the array pattern in the thunderbolt. However, the reason why he dared to agree and come to the thunder origin formation diagram was not because he was reckless. Cause, after all, there were two primordial stones in his spiritual soul. The ancient primordial stone was far more mysterious and ancient than the thunder origin diagram. What was even more amazing was that this stone had a powerful ability to deduce and enhance one's comprehension. Even though he couldn't comprehend the true essence of the lightning origin array diagram, the primordial grand mist stone could. Once he comprehended the true essence, the primordial stone would be able to display the true essence of the lightning array diagram and transfer it into his mind, allowing him to slowly digest and absorb it. After the two primordial stones flew out from the depths of Zhuowen's divine soul, they burst forth with a blazing purple light, dispersing most of the surrounding darkness. Even the lightning that struck from time to time in the depths of the darkness paled in comparison to the purple light of the primordial stones. Boom! Again it was a bolt of lightning that fell, and its trajectory was densely covered with dense and complicated array patterns. The two primordial stones were like two eyeballs, completely recording all the array patterns in the trajectory and transmitting them to the depths of Zhuowen's divine soul. This under the powerful deduction ability of the primordial stones, these complicated array patterns were quickly pieced together like a puzzle, causing the originally messy array patterns to become traceable. This Zhuowen's comprehension ability also rose rapidly with the help of the primordial technique. He constantly memorized the results of the primordial stone's deduction, eagerly comprehending the true essence within. As the lightning continued to fall, more and more array patterns were received by the primordial stones and transmitted to his divine soul. It was like a puzzle. The more pieces there were, the more complete the picture would be. At this moment, Zhuowen's comprehension of these array patterns was the same. As the number of array patterns increased, his comprehension became faster and deeper. After an unknown period of time, Zhuowen suddenly opened his eyes and muttered to himself, "There are a total of 108 lightning bolts, and within the trajectory of each lightning bolt, there are completely different and complicated array patterns." In this space, there were in fact a total of 108 lightning bolts, and the array patterns they carried were completely different. These 108 lightning bolts fell randomly in the space in a disorderly manner, and along the trajectory of the lightning bolts, many array patterns were carried over. Moreover, even if it was the same lightning bolt, the angle and location of each strike were different, and the array patterns contained within were completely different. If one could not completely comprehend the array patterns within each lightning bolt, one would be like a headless fly, and would think that each lightning bolt was completely different. Once one had such a thought, then in one's eyes, each lightning bolt was different, and in this way, one would never be able to completely comprehend the true essence of the lightning array pattern. It's really complicated. Although there are only 108 lightning bolts, there are countless ways to arrange them. As long as there is a mistake in one array pattern, the entire array pattern will be wrong. No wonder the Lightning Array Clan's clan leader could not comprehend the true essence of this array pattern for countless years. Wen smiled bitterly. If he did not have the help of the primordial stone, even if he was given tens of thousands of years, Zhuowen might not be able to completely comprehend the pattern of the lightning bolts in the lightning array pattern. Boom, boom, clang. Just as this thought appeared in Zhuowen's mind, he noticed that in the depths of the chaotic and dark space, one after another, lightning bolts lit up one after another. These lightning bolts formed a ring shape, and with Zhuowen as the center, they radiated in all directions. 108 lightning bolts formed 10 rings, and like a complicated double pupil, they surrounded Zhuowen. Clang. At the same time, Zhuowen vaguely heard steady and rhythmic footsteps coming from the periphery of the ring, and they were slowly approaching him at the core. In the end, the footsteps stopped behind him, and they stopped abruptly. Zhuowen slowly turned around and calmly looked at the old man in front of him. Old man. The old man looked to be around 70 years old. He wore a white robe, and a long snow-white beard hung down in front of his chest. His entire body was bathed in brilliance, and he looked like a god that had descended to the mortal world. He was so dazzling that it was difficult to look at him directly. You actually successfully found the question that I left in the lightning array pattern. I don't know which generation of the Lightning Array Clan's disciples you are, but since you can pass the trial, then you have the chance to obtain the real lightning array pattern and my lifetime of experience in array formation. The old man's voice was ethereal and vast, and he did not seem to have any intention of asking for Zhuowen's opinion. Instead, he continued to speak. Zhuowen also knew that the old man in front of him should be an illusion left behind by the Lightning Array Clan's ancestor from a very long time ago. His whereabouts were unknown, so it would be strange if he could talk to him normally. Chapter 43-53. Outside the Thunder Pool, the Jiao Yuan sat silently on a protruding boulder. The slight footsteps attracted the attention of the Jiao Yuan. He slowly opened his eyes and looked at Chen Yin behind him. Cousin, it's not so easy to understand the thunder source diagram. Brother Mo Wen can't have any harvest without thousands of years. It's only been 3 days now. If you want to stay here, I'm afraid you have to wait in vain. It's better to go back first. If Brother Mo Wen really can't hold on, he will naturally send me a message and I will inform you as soon as possible. Chen Yin walked to the Jiao Yuan, slowly squatted down, and looked at the endless thunder raging in the thunder pool with complicated eyes, and said in a deep voice, Brother Mo Wen won't take too long. He once said that within 10 days, if he can't succeed, he will give up. The Jiao Yuan said. Fei Pengze and others started half a month later, and Zhuowen practiced in the Black City for 5 days, so that is to say, there are only 10 days left before Fei Pengze and others start. Zhuowen only has these 10 days to try. If he can't succeed, Zhuowen knows that he has no other way. He can only take one step at a time. 10 days? Chen Yin suspected that he had heard it wrong. This Mo Wen is joking. The thunder source diagram has not been cracked for countless years by their thunder array family. This guy actually wants to have a harvest in 10 days. It can only be described as wishful thinking. Forget it, it seems that this Mo Wen just wants to see the thunder source diagram. After he leaves the thunder source diagram, he will understand the vastness and profoundness of the thunder source diagram. He is far from comparable. Chen Yin thought secretly, and looked down on Zhuowen more and more. In his eyes, Zhuowen has become an arrogant person without self-knowledge. He even regretted promising Zhuowen to let him try to enter the thunder source diagram. Cousin, you'd better stay away from that Mo in the future. I don't think he's worthy of being your friend. Chen Yin whispered and began to worry that Zhuan would have a bad impact on the Jiao Yuan. The Jiao Yuan shook his head and didn't say anything. His heart was like a mirror, and naturally he could see what Chen Yin was thinking now. Boom, boom. Suddenly, there were several explosions in the thunder pool, which attracted the attention of Chen Yin and the Jiao Yuan. When their gazes landed on the lightning pool, they were instantly dumbfounded. All of a sudden, the thunderstorm, thunder dragon, and other types of violent thunderbolts that filled the lightning pool suddenly became much more docile. They all began to move towards the stone tablet in the center of the lightning pool. Inside the lightning pool, all kinds of lightning energy surged into the depths of the stone steel like moths to a flame. On the other hand, the stone tablet did not reject anything. Like a whale sucking in water, it absorbed all the lightning energy that surged over from the surroundings, leaving not a single drop behind. In the blink of an eye, the extraordinary lightning pool turned into an ordinary basin. There was no longer any violent lightning energy. What is going on? The lightning pool's lightning energy was actually absorbed by the thunder origin array diagram? Chen Yin panicked. The lightning pool was the forbidden ground of the lightning array clan, and it was the natural protection of the lightning origin array diagram. And now, the lightning pond had disappeared. To their lightning formation clan, it could be said to be an enormous loss. Gotcha! A crisp shattering sound rang out. In the silent lightning pool, it was so crisp and ear-piercing. Chen Yin's eyes were dull as he discovered that the stone tablet that stood in the center of the lightning pool had countless cracks. The dense gravel began to fall off the surface of the stone tablet and fell to the ground. Following the shattering of the gravel was Chen Yin's heart. The stone tablet was the carrier of the lightning origin array diagram. It was something passed down from their ancestors. Now that it had shattered, Chen Yin's heart was really broken. At the same time that the lightning pool changed, in the mysterious space of the lightning origin array diagram, the wide-robed old man's right finger was pointing at Zhuowen's forehead. Waves of mysterious and obscure runes, knowledge and experience flowed along the old and withered finger into the depths of Zhuowen's forehead. They were deeply imprinted in the depths of his mind. Zhuowen's eyes revealed an intoxicated look. He accepted all the array Dao experience of the ancestors of the lightning array clan, and he suddenly had an epiphany. The array Dao problems that used to be obscure and difficult to understand became so simple in his eyes at this moment. But the experience and knowledge of the ancestors of the lightning array clan were too vast. Although Zhuon was also trying to digest it, he could only comprehend a small part. What was left was for Zhuon to slowly comprehend and digest it. This required sufficient time. And Zhuon finally knew that the name of the ancestor of the lightning array clan was Huan. Because he created the lightning array clan, he was given the surname Lei. Therefore, all the clansmen of the lightning array clan were surnamed Lei. For example, Jiao Yuan and Chen Yin, these two were their names. Their surnames were Lei, and their full names were Lei Jiao Yuan and Lei Chen Yin. After accepting all the experience and knowledge of Lei Huan, he finally knew that Lei Huan was a powerful array Dao master at the peak of the fourth heavenly layer. Lei Huan, for a very long time, was known as the invincible array master under the fifth heavenly layer of the eternal realm. The reason why he had such a reputation was mainly because he was extremely fast at setting up arrays, especially when he was setting up thunder attribute arrays, which could be completed in almost half a breath. Of course, this was on the premise that there were enough materials. With the heaven-defying ability to set up thunder attribute arrays in an instant, although Lei Huan's cultivation wasn't high, his fighting strength made many experts tremble in fear. As long as Lei Huan had enough materials, he could set up one array after another in an instant. Even if he couldn't beat his opponent, he could exhaust them to death. However, this ability to set up arrays in an instant was only mastered by Lei Huan. Later, the lightning array clan lost this ability, making this ability to set up arrays in an instant a legend of the lightning array clan. Junior, who has comprehended the truth, now you are qualified to get the real thunder origin array diagram. With the help of the thunder origin array diagram, you can get the heaven-defying ability to set up arrays in half a breath. Of course, this is limited to thunder attribute arrays. If it were other types of arrays, the thunder origin array diagram wouldn't have such an auxiliary effect. I hope you can make good use of this ability. Also, the secret of the thunder origin array diagram must not be leaked. Only the owner of the thunder origin array diagram can know about it. Remember, if the secret of the thunder origin array diagram is revealed, it will trigger the curse that I set up on it. At that time, you will watch as you turn into lightning liquid and be swallowed by the thunder origin array diagram. Lei Huan's figure looked deeply at Zhuan. After reminding him of some things to take note of, his figure gradually turned illusory and finally dissipated into countless light spots. After Lei Huan's illusory figure disappeared, the mysterious lightning rings that surrounded Zhuan also collapsed one after another. When all the lightning rings dissipated, the mysterious space started to violently collapse. The surrounding space was even more distorted and shattered. In the depths of the endless darkness, a white lightning suddenly descended. This bolt of lightning was gentle and warm, completely enveloping Zhuan. When Zhuan opened his eyes again, he realized that he had already left the mysterious space and landed in the thunder pool. However, the thunder pool in front of him no longer had any lightning energy. Instead, it had become an ordinary basin. As for the stone tablet that contained the thunder origin array diagram, it started to crumble inch by inch and shattered into countless pieces. The surroundings were a mess. At the same time, Hun realized that not far from where the stone tablet had shattered, there were two figures standing. Their gazes were confused and their expressions were strange. Chapter 43-54. Hey, is this the thunder pool? Shouldn't I still be in the thunder source array? One of them was a doddering old man with a hunched back. His turbid eyes were wide open as he looked around and shrieked in a shrill voice. The other was an old woman with the same white hair. She was also full of doubts, but she was much calmer than the old man. She first looked at Zhuan doubtfully, and then her eyes fell on the old man not far away. "Father!" The old woman's eyes recovered, and she excitedly ran to the old man and hugged the old man's shoulders with both hands. "Hey, who are you, old woman? I am not your father. I have a daughter. Her name is Lei Jia. She is a young, beautiful, and graceful girl. How can she be as old as you?" The old man quickly retreated a few steps, pointed at the old woman, and said angrily. However, he looked at the old woman carefully and whispered, "The outline of this old woman's face is a bit like Jia, but Jia can't be so old. When I first entered the thunder origin array diagram, she was still a lively, cute, and beautiful young lady." "Father, I am Lei Jia. You have been in the thunder source array for almost 9,000 years. The old woman sighed. "What? 9,000 years? Impossible. Why do I feel like only a few years have passed? Why is it so fast?" The old man was shocked, and soon he realized something. He looked at the old woman and asked, Are you really Jia?" The old woman's face was red with excitement. She quickly walked up and hugged the old man tightly. Zhuan looked at this scene, and the corner of his eyes twitched. The picture was so beautiful that he didn't dare to look. At the same time, Jiao Yuan and Chen Yin also rushed down from above. They quickly came to Zhuan and asked about the situation. The two of them were full of doubts. They didn't understand what had happened to the thunder pool and the thunder source array, and it had become like this. Maybe it has something to do with me understanding the true meaning of the thunder source array. Yuan scratched his head and said embarrassedly, "After all, the thunder pool is the forbidden land of the thunder array clan." He still felt a little sorry for making it like this. So that's the case. Chen Yin and the Jiao Yuan breathed a sigh of relief, but soon realized that something was wrong. Their eyes widened and they stared at Zhuan. "What did you just say? Did you really comprehend the true essence of the thunder origin diagram?" "That should be the case. I even saw the projection of a person who claimed to be Lei Huan inside. He imparted all of his life's experience and knowledge to me. After he disappeared, I was sent out," Zhuan honestly replied. However, he did not mention the part about the thunder array diagram. It wasn't that he didn't want to say it, but that old man Lei Huan had put a curse on it. If he said it to another person, he would be cursed immediately. The drying up of the thunder pool and the mutation of the thunder origin array diagram is indeed recorded in the ancestral teachings. This is a phenomenon that will only appear after the true essence of the thunder origin array diagram is deciphered. Our lightning array clan has really produced a true dragon. Jia Jia, introduce to me, which of my great-grandchildren is this little guy? Zhuo Wen's voice was not soft, so the old woman and old man who were still reminiscing about their family not far away also heard it clearly. The old man laughed loudly and very proudly pulled the old woman in front of Zhuo Wen, wanting to introduce them to each other. In his view, only the people of the Thunder Array clan can enter the Thunder Origin diagram to comprehend. XDW8 He was the person with the highest seniority in the Thunder Origin Array diagram who had yet to reach the end of his lifespan. Naturally, he believed that Zhuo Wen was one of his great-great-great-grandchildren. Lei Jia's eyes were strange. She looked at Zhuo Wen, and then looked at the Jiao Yuan and Chen Yin. The return of the Jiao Yuan made her happy and excited, but she really had no impression of who Zhuo Wen was. Father, actually, I don't know who he is. Lei Jia was embarrassed. Then who is he? The old man asked with his eyes wide open. Next to him, the Jiao Yuan and Chen Yin, who were still in a sluggish state because of Zhuo Wen's words, were brought back to their senses by the old man's rough voice. Grandmother, great-grandfather. His name is Mo Wen, he is one of my best friends. The thunder origin diagram should be cracked by him. The Jiao Yuan quickly said. What? Not the younger generation of our lightning array clan. Lei Jia and the old man both exclaimed in unison. The thunder origin diagram is the treasure of their lightning array clan. How can they casually let an outsider touch it? Chen Yin quickly stepped forward and explained the cause and effect of the matter. Lei Jia and the old man, who were originally excited, gradually calmed down after hearing the explanation. What Chen Yin said is right. The thunder origin diagram has now become the burden of their lightning array clan. If someone can help them unravel the truth, it is actually helping their lightning array clan. Furthermore, Zhuo Wen had promised that he would share all the experience and knowledge he gained from the thunder origin array diagram with the lightning array clan. Thus, the two of them quickly accepted this fact. Little friend, it's really a young hero. You can actually crack the truth of the thunder origin diagram. It really makes the old man ashamed. I just don't know how many years it took you to realize the truth. The old man said gently. He has realized Zhuo Wen's powerful formation talent, so he also has the intention of making friends. He should have realized it within half a year, because I entered the thunder origin diagram half a year ago, and at that time, he and the Jiao Yuan had not yet returned to the lightning array clan. Lei Jia interjected. Within half a year. The old man sucked in a breath of cold air. He looked at Zhuo Wen as if he was looking at a monster. He didn't know what to say at all. He, an old man, has studied for more than 9,000 years, and he is not as good as a young man for half a year. He felt very ashamed. Grandmother, great-grandfather. In fact, Brother Mo Wen only took 3 days. The Jiao Yuan smiled bitterly. 3 days. The old man and Lei Jia breathed a sigh of relief, but soon their faces changed drastically, and they shouted in unison, "What did you say?" 3 days. 3 days? Seeing his grandmother and great-grandfather so excited, the Jiao Yuan could only smile bitterly in his heart. Even he felt that it was incredible. But in fact it was true. Zhuo Wen did take only 3 days. It was simply terrifying. Senior Lei Jia, the reason why I took the liberty to come and try the thunder origin diagram is to let you come out. I have something to ask. Zhuo Wen suddenly cupped his fist and said solemnly. Lei Jia came back to her senses. She looked at Zhuo Wen strangely and muttered to herself absent-mindedly, "It's really infuriating. He just cracked the thunder origin diagram in order to let me out. Then I and the generations of patriarchs have never successfully cracked it. We are all living on dogs, damn it." The old man fiercely added a sentence for Lei Jia. Chapter 43-55. In the Lei Zhen clan, In the patriarch's mansion, the previous patriarch Lei Jia and the previous patriarch Lei Yu were sitting in the first place. Below them sat Zhuan, Chen Yin, and Jiu Yuan. Dang, after Lei Jia and Lei Yu read the contents of the jade slip handed over by Zhuan, they were all enlightened and their eyes showed excitement. It turns out that this is the law of the thunder in the thunder source diagram. In the world of the thunder source diagram, there are only 100 zeros? Huh? What do you mean? Lei Jia asked in surprise. In the beginning, I went to the Saint Pavilion to look for the third holy maiden, Zilong, and told her about this. But I didn't expect her to not believe me, and she even wanted to take me back to search my soul to prove the truth of my words. Zhuowen mentioned lightly and did not say much. Lei Jia frowned slightly. She thought of something, sighed softly, and said, Zilong, holy maiden Zilong's character is more willful and self-righteous. You have been wronged. As for your arrest, I will also report to the great holy maiden. I think the great holy maiden will clear your name. Wen waved his hand and said in a deep voice, Senior Lei Jia, you only need to convey what I said. As for the third holy maiden and me, please don't say much. Wen didn't have a good impression of the Zixuan clan, and he didn't care about the arrest of the Zixuan clan. If Lei Jia said anything, it would expose his whereabouts. The so-called close and distant, even if Zilong was wrong, but as a holy maiden, would the great holy maiden punish Zilong because of him, an outsider? This was obviously impossible. Lei Jia also thought of this. She hesitated for a moment and nodded. She didn't intend to say anything about Zhuan. Nephew, you've helped our Lightning Array clan a great deal today. There are 7 days before the attack, you said. I will report to the great holy maiden tomorrow. Today you will stay with us and let us entertain you well to express our gratitude. Lei Jia laughed. Lei Yu and Chen Yin also nodded and looked at Zhuowen expectantly. Looking at the expectant gazes in front of him, Wen hesitated for a moment before agreeing. Subsequently, the Thunder Array clan held a grand banquet. In name, it was to celebrate the success of the 2 clan leaders. However, in reality, it was to celebrate Zhuowen. The next day, Wen and Jiu Yuan stayed in the luxurious wing arranged by Lei Jia in the Thunder Array clan, while Lei Jia hurriedly left the Thunder Array clan and headed for the Purple Yuan Palace in the core of the holy city. At the core of the sacred city, there were 7 magnificent buildings. 2 of the most magnificent buildings were the Female Supreme Palace, which was where the 2 female supremes of the Zixuan clan lived, while the other 5 palaces were less important. They were the personal palaces of the 5 holy maidens. These 5 palaces were named after the holy maidens. For example, the first holy maiden was called Ziyuan, so her palace was called Ziyuan Palace. The third holy maiden Zilong's palace was called Zilong Palace. Chapter 4356. On the way to the Ziyuan Palace, Lei Jia was unimpeded. She did not encounter many obstacles or inquiries at all. In the Zixuan clan, it was no secret that the previous patriarch of the Lei clan, Lei Jia, had a good relationship with the great saintess Ziyuan. Back then, the great saintess had even said that Lei Jia could enter the Ziyuan Palace without notifying her. Lei Jia came to the door of the Ziyuan Palace and whispered to Ziyuan's personal maid who had been waiting outside, "Is the great saintess in the Ziyuan Palace now?" Patriarch Lei, the great saintess, is in a meeting with the other saintesses. It may take some time. Please come to the inner hall and wait for a moment. The maid said respectfully. Lei Jia nodded. Under the maid's lead, she entered the resting hall of the inner hall and waited. About 2 hours later, a beautiful woman with a graceful figure and snow-white skin walked into the resting hall with charming steps. The beautiful woman was wearing a light gauze. Through the hazy gauze, one could vaguely see the delicate and beautiful curves under the gauze. The beautiful woman slowly walked into the resting hall. Her long and narrow phoenix eyes fell on Lei Jia, who was sitting in the resting hall, and the corners of her mouth lifted into an imperceptible arc. Lei Jia, didn't you enter the Thunder Origin Array half a year ago? It's only been half a year and you've come out of seclusion. Could it be that you've cracked the Thunder Origin Array? The beautiful woman was the great saintess, Ziyuan. She stretched her waist, revealing the perfect curves on her body that could make many men's blood boil. Her long and narrow beautiful eyes looked at the old woman in front of her in confusion. When it came to the Thunder Origin Array, Lei Jia couldn't help but smile. Great Holy Maiden, I was fortunate to have accomplished my mission. I have deciphered the Thunder Origin Array diagram and obtained the enlightenment of my ancestor. I have obtained a lot of valuable knowledge and information. Lei Jia smiled. She had a very good relationship with Ziyuan, so she didn't intend to hide the Thunder Origin Array. Dang, however, because Yuan had agreed in advance, she didn't tell anyone about Zhuan. She only said that she had cracked the Thunder Origin Array. Ziyuan was moved. She took a deep look at Lei Jia and said with a smile, Lei Jia, congratulations. The important task of reviving the Thunder Array clan is indeed on you. You have solved the problem that none of the previous patriarchs were able to solve. You will become an important figure in the history of the Lightning Array clan. Lei Jia repeatedly said that she didn't dare. She also said that it was because the Zixuan clan had taken care of the Leizhen clan. That was why the Leizhen clan was able to achieve its current glory. In Lei Jia's words, most of the credit for cracking the Thunder Origin formation was given to the Zixuan clan. This made the great Saintess Ziyuan extremely happy. Lei Jia, you specially came to the Purple Yuan Palace today. It shouldn't be just to report to me about the Thunder Origin diagram, right? Ziyuan looked at Lei Jia with a smile and asked without hesitation. Lei Jia nodded. Her expression became extremely serious as she said in a deep voice, Great Saintess, I do have an important matter to report to you. This matter involves the stability and turmoil of the Zixuan clan. Ziyuan, who had a smile in her eyes, became serious after hearing Lei Jia's words. Tell me about it. Ziyuan frowned. It's like this. I accidentally learned that someone is preparing to launch a surprise attack on the divine worship of the Zixuan sacred city in 7 days. Before Lei Jia finished speaking, the great Saintess Ziyuan completely lost her calm. She sat up abruptly, frowned tightly, and asked seriously, Lei Jia, there are some things that can't be said carelessly. The divine worship is something given to us by the lords of the supreme realms. No one dares to attack the divine worship. This is against the will of those lords. Lei Jia nodded heavily and said, Great Saintess, what I said is absolutely true. There are indeed people who want to attack the divine worship, but their goal is not the divine worship. They want to lure the tiger away from the mountain and lure out most of the higher-ups of the Zixuan clan. Their real goal is the sacred fire source. Ziyuan's pupils narrowed. The sacred fire source was the most important thing to the Zixuan clan. It was even more precious than the divine worship. The divine worship could be repaired if it was damaged, but there was only one sacred fire source. If it was taken away, there really wouldn't be a second one. Are you sure this news is true? Ziyuan asked again solemnly. Lei Jia thought for a moment and nodded. She believed that Zhuan would not speak carelessly. Ziyuan, after a long silence, Ziyuan finally sighed softly and said to Lei Jia, You can go back first. I know about this matter. I need to gather the other 4 saintesses to discuss countermeasures. Lei Jia nodded. She was only responsible for delivering the news. As for how the Zixuan clan would deal with the enemy next, it was not something she could participate in. After Lei Jia bid farewell to Ziyuan, Ziyuan ordered people to gather the other 4 saintesses to the Ziyuan palace. Soon, in the large reception hall of the Ziyuan palace, the 5 saintesses gathered together. They were the great Saintess Ziyuan, the second Saintess Zixin, the third Saintess Zilong, the fourth Saintess Ziyong, and the fifth Saintess Zilian. 4 the saintesses all looked at the great Saintess Ziyuan, who was sitting at the head of the table with a gloomy face. Not long after they finished the meeting, the great Saintess summoned them again, which made them very surprised. They wondered what the great Saintess wanted. The 4 of you, I have very unfortunate news to tell you. Ziyuan finally opened her mouth and immediately attracted the attention of the other 4 saintesses. I received news that someone will attack the divine worship in 7 days. Their purpose of attacking the divine worship is not to destroy the divine worship, but to lure the tiger away from the mountain. Their real purpose is the divine fire source. Ziyuan slowly narrated, but the other 4 saintesses were all shocked. Tilong, the 3rd saintess, narrowed her beautiful eyes and immediately thought of the young demonic cultivator she met in the sage pavilion that day. At that time, the news that the young demonic cultivator told her was what Ziyuan was saying now. Difficult, could it be that the demonic cultivator was unable to persuade her and had approached the great saintess at some point and told her this news that she did not know whether it was true or false? This man is really hateful. As expected, he has ulterior motives. He is so persistent in deceiving the Zishen clan. What is his purpose? Except for Zilong, the other 3 saintesses were surprised, but they did not doubt it. Ziyuan was the great saintess. Among them, she was the most respected, so they subconsciously believed the news she said. Therefore, we must take precautions. I plan to send 70% of the core of the inner city to the vicinity of the divine worship and take protective measures. If necessary, the divine worship will leave Zishen's sacred city in advance on that day so that the attackers will not be able to succeed. And we will still be in the core of the inner city. We can't let this group of people have any opportunity to take advantage of. Ziyuan's analysis was well organized, and she spoke of the plan that she had already arranged in her heart. Great saintess, don't you suspect that this news is false? Suddenly, the 3rd saintess Zilong spoke out. Ziyuan raised her eyebrows and looked at Zilong. False? I don't think this news is false because the person who gave me the news is someone I trust. Ziyuan looked at Ziyuan. Ziyuan shook her head and said, Great saintess, in fact, I received this news a few days ago. And the person who passed me the news was an extremely suspicious young demonic cultivator. The news he told me was almost the same as yours. As soon as these words came out, the saintesses were all moved, including the great saintess Ziyuan. Chapter 43-57. A young demon cultivator? Is he your friend? Saintess Ziyuan's beautiful brows furrowed slightly as she looked at 3rd Saintess Zilong in confusion. Unexpectedly, 3rd Saintess Zilong had already heard of this news before her. Sister Zilong, is the young demon cultivator you're talking about the person you're looking for? I remember that he's also a demon cultivator, 5th Saintess Zilian suddenly said. 5th Saintess Zilian was the youngest. Her long eyelashes, coupled with her big watery eyes, gave off a pure feeling that made people want to cherish her. Zilong nodded and said, That's him. When I heard the news, I was also shocked, but I didn't believe it so easily. Therefore, I wanted to invite this person to our core inner city as a guest and explain the source and details of the news in detail. However, this person ignored my invitation and even left in a hurry. I wanted to ask him to stop, but he suddenly felt guilty and ran away in a hurry. He was so fast that even I couldn't catch up with him. After that, the more I thought about it, the more I felt that something was wrong. I kept feeling that there was something wrong with this person. The news he gave me was obviously misleading. Maybe he wanted us to deploy most of our forces to the divine ship, so wouldn't the core inner city be empty? Zilong asked. Dragon did not directly state his conclusion. Instead, he laid out his analysis in detail. However, the 5 saintesses present were all intelligent people, so they naturally understood the meaning behind Zilong's words. However, what they did not expect was that Zilong's words had actually been modified by her with some embellishments. At that time, she did not politely invite Zhuowen to the core inner city. Instead, she planned to detain him back to the inner city and then forcibly search his soul. If Zilong's attitude was not tough and unreasonable, Zhuowen would not have been forced to leave by her. It was completely different from what Zilong said about Zhuowen running away because of a guilty conscience. There's definitely a lot of animosity between us. Maybe he's one of the masterminds behind all this. His purpose is to make us transfer our troops away from the core of the inner city so that they can take advantage of the situation. The 2nd Saintess, Zixian, agreed. After Zilong's misdirection, other than the great Saintess Yuan, the other 3 saintesses all agreed with Zilong's point of view and began to have great doubts about the demonic cultivator. Purple, she felt that Zilong's words were suspicious, but she could not find a reason to refute it. She didn't think that Lei Jia would lie to her about this matter. Lei Jia had a very good relationship with her, and both of them could contribute to each other's solid relationship. If Lei Jia did not lie to her, then Zilong's words had a huge problem. I believe in the information provided by my informant. The divine worship is also extremely important. We also need to be prepared. At least, we need to send a portion of our forces to prevent accidents from happening, Ziyuan said in a deep voice. Great Saintess, you've obviously fallen into his trap. Believe me, the divine worship will never be attacked. This is a psychological attack. They're waiting for us to leave the core of the inner city so that they can launch a fierce attack on the inner city in one fell swoop. Now, what we need to do is to not do anything and just do our jobs. As long as we don't move, the mastermind behind the scenes will not be able to do anything to us, Zilong said confidently. What if your guess is wrong? You know the importance of the divine worship to our Zixuan clan better than I do. If something happens to the divine worship, we won't be able to escape severe punishment, Ziyuan said coldly. The smile on Zilong's face deepened. She said, Great Saintess, since we don't agree, why don't we follow the usual practice and decide by voting? The minority obeys the majority. Ziyuan frowned slightly. She looked at the other three saintesses and found that they were deliberately not looking at her. She knew that the other three saintesses might be more convinced by Zilong's words. Although, among the 5 saintesses of the Zixuan clan, Ziyuan, as the great saintess, had the highest prestige, but after all, the clan was now jointly managed by the 5 of them. If they wanted to mobilize the cultivator army in the clan or other major matters, they needed to vote. Everyone, I can be sure that the news I received is not likely to be false. We must arrange for people to guard the divine worship. Ziyuan, the great saintess, said in a deep voice. Great Saintess, your news may have been deliberately released to you by the mastermind behind the scenes. In order to prevent you from being deceived, you'd better think it over carefully, Zilong, the 3rd Saintess, said, not backing down. Great Saintess, what the 3rd Saintess said is right. The divine worship is made of special materials. Even a star-light level cultivator may not be able to destroy it. Our core inner city is an important place for our clan. I agree with what the 3rd Saintess said. We should put the main forces in the core inner city. We don't need to pay attention to the divine worship at all. The other 3 saintesses hesitated for a moment, but they all chose to support the 3rd Saintess. Zilong Ziyuan frowned slightly. She didn't say a word, and her face was as calm as water. Zilong, the 3rd Saintess, was proud. She glanced at the great Saintess, and her heart was full of joy. Although she was only the 3rd Saintess, she had been very popular recently. Because of Fei Ping's matter, the reputation and status of the 2nd Saintess had plummeted, and she was no longer a threat to Zilong. The only person standing in front of Zilong was the most respected great Saintess. Zilong knew that after this time, she would take the initiative. When her reputation completely overshadowed that of the great Saintess, she believed that the Saintess would pay attention to her again and promote her to become the great Saintess, because she was the most capable of the 5 Saintesses. Just in case, it's best to mobilize 20% of the troops to guard the divine worship. This way, the core inner city will not be empty, and there will be a buffer if an accident happens to the divine worship, the great Saintess, Ziyuan, suggested after a moment of silence. Now, the other Saintesses had all sided with the 3rd Saintess. Even if Ziyuan was the great Saintess, she was not qualified to mobilize the cultivator army of the Zixuan clan. This must be done by 3 or more Saintesses. This was a rule set by the 2 Saintesses, and Ziyuan could not violate it. Zilong's heart was already filled with pride, and she was a little carried away. She flatly refused and said, Great Saintess, your vision is no longer sharp. This time, let me be in charge. You just need to watch. Ziyuan was angry. Mobilizing 20% of the troops was not difficult for Zilong, but she refused. This was too childish. I think the great Saintess's suggestion is reasonable. It's only 20% of the troops, so it shouldn't be a problem. The 2nd Saintess, Zixen, felt that Zilong was a little carried away and could not help but remind her. Ziyuan was not afraid. She said, "Second Saintess, I know this better than all of you. Instead of mobilizing 20% of the troops to guard the divine worship, I think it's better to let these troops search for the young demonic cultivator. As long as we catch the demonic cultivator, we can quickly find the mastermind behind the scenes. Then won't this crisis be resolved?" The fourth Saintess, Ziyong, and the fifth Saintess, Zilian, nodded repeatedly. They completely agreed with Zilong's suggestion. They were completely convinced by her. Chapter 43-58. Let's go. The top priority is to catch the young demon cultivator. We will mobilize the troops first. Does the great holy maiden want to come with us? Zilong looked at the silent Ziyuan, and there was some provocation in her eyes. Ziyuan frowned, shook her head and sighed, "I'm not feeling well, so I won't go. You go ahead. The great holy maiden must take care of her health. We will go first." Zilong left the Ziyuan palace triumphantly. Soon, Ziyuan was the only one left in the huge palace. Time gradually passed, and in the sacred city of Zixien, in recent days, many cultivators were searching for the wanted demon cultivators from door to door. Even the land of the Leijin clan was no exception. The cultivators of the Zixien clan were everywhere with portraits in their hands. The entrances and exits of the sacred city were strictly controlled. The cultivators who entered and exited the sacred city needed to go through many inspections before they could pass. Deep in the Leijin clan, in a secret room, Zhuan sat in the hall, listening to the report from the Jiuyuan, and his face was not very good. He thought that after Lei Jia went to report to the great holy maiden, the Zixien clan would take action and be on guard against the divine ship. But according to the investigation of the Jiuyuan, there were no precautions at all on the divine ship, but in the sacred city, the search for him was getting stronger and stronger. In the sacred city of Zixien, the only one who wants me is the third holy maiden Zilong. That is to say, Zilong actually has the power to mobilize the cultivator army in the city? But it shouldn't be. The great holy maiden is the most respected, and the relationship between the Lei Jia clan and her is so good, she shouldn't doubt the news of the Lei Jia clan. Zhuo furrowed his brows and continued to mutter to himself, even if she really suspects clan leader Lei Jia's news, she can't possibly ignore the divine worship. At the very least, she has to take precautions against possible attacks. One was puzzled. He didn't know that the great holy maiden had tried her best, but unfortunately, the current Zixien sacred city was not something she could decide alone. His Saintess had sided with the third Saintess, leaving the first Saintess alone in this matter. She wanted to help, but she was powerless. What should we do now? The Jiuyuan asked with a frown. The divine ship must not be lost. Since the Zixuan clan does not care, we can only rely on the power of the Leijin clan. Zhuan looked at the Jiuyuan. Rayan, the residence of the patriarch, Lei Jia, Lei Yu, Chen Yin and the Jiuyuan gathered together, and Zhuan naturally sat here. Seniors, clan leader Chen Yin, it seems that the Zixien clan has not accepted the opinions and information of the Thunder Array clan. Zhuan said in a deep voice. Lei Jia sighed and said, "You can't blame the great Saintess. She has already sent me a message. Now, the third Saintess has the initiative, and the other Saintesses have also chosen the third Saintess Zilong's words, so, now, if you want to prevent the divine worship from being destroyed, you can only rely on the Thunder Array tribe," Zhuan said helplessly. "Relying on our Lightning Array clan? Little friend, although our Lightning Array clan is a highly respected Array Dao clan, we only know Array Dao. In terms of fighting, we are weak chickens. If you want us to stop a possible attack, you might as well kill me." Lei Yu immediately objected. Zhuan looked helplessly at the rogue old man in front of him. He really didn't expect that the patriarch of the previous generation of the Thunder Array clan was an old rogue who only knew how to play tricks. "What if you add the peerless Thunder Array? Are you still not sure?" Zhuan sighed softly. "Of course not." Peerless Thunder Array? Just as Lei Yu was about to deny it, her eyes suddenly widened. "No, of course, he knows about the double Thunder Array. This is one of the most powerful arrays of their ancestors. The jade slip that Zhuan passed to them has the corresponding arrangement method. However, the Peerless Thunder Array is a terrifying attack array of the eternal third heavenly layer. Because of its terrifying power, it is said that it is close to the eternal fourth heavenly layer. Dang years ago, their ancestors relied on this array to almost walk sideways in the eternal third heavenly layer. In their ancestral teachings, their ancestors arranged the Peerless Thunder Array in half a breath, which simply shocked all the clansmen of the past generations. No matter how talented the array master is, it is impossible to arrange such a complex and powerful array in half a breath, but their ancestors did it. Later, many of their ancestors' powerful arrays were lost, and this Peerless Thunder Array was one of them. Impossible, the Peerless Thunder Array is extremely complex, and it is a great array of the eternal third heavenly layer. Even if this old man is already a divine array master of the eternal third heavenly layer, he can't arrange it smoothly in a short time. Lei Yu shook his head. I have successfully advanced to the eternal third heavenly layer. Plus me, Senior Lei Jia and you, there are a total of 3 eternal third heavenly layer array masters. Do you think you can't arrange it in a short time? Zhuan said lightly. What? You have advanced? When did it happen? Lei Yu's eyes widened and he exclaimed. Zhuo, how old is one? He is so young, but he is already a divine array master of the same level as him, an old man who has lived for so long. Lei Yu had a feeling of being fucked by a dog. Nunli Lei Yu, Lei Jia, Jiao Yuan, Chen Yin and others were shocked by Zhuowen's words. Zhuowen's right hand opened, and a series of complex array patterns surged out of his palm, and then instantly turned into various types of small arrays in front of him. The symbol of the eternal third heavenly layer is to know all kinds of array patterns like the back of one's hand, and can combine the array patterns into a variety of restrictions and great arrays at any time and place. It's really a divine array master of the eternal third heavenly layer. Lei Yu coughed a few times, and his eyes were quite complicated. There are still 5 days. As long as you can collect enough materials for the Peerless Thunder Array, I can guarantee that I can arrange the Peerless Thunder Array in these 5 days. If you can protect the divine ship this time, it will be a good thing for your Thunder Array clan. The Zishuan clan will reward you. Zhuan said lightly. Zhuan smoothly advanced to the eternal third heavenly layer on the 2nd day after he got all of Lei Huan's array experience. And with the Thunder Source Array diagram in his body, it was not difficult for him to arrange the Peerless Thunder Array now. Dang, however, because the level of the Peerless Thunder Array is relatively high, he can't use the Thunder Source Array diagram to form the array in an instant, but it can also greatly shorten the time to set up the array, as long as the materials are enough. Lei Jia said with a complicated look in her eyes, Nephew Amwen, can I ask why you are so obsessed with protecting the divine ship? You are not a member of the Zishuan clan, nor are you related to them. You have no obligation to protect the divine ship. Zhuan spread out his hands and said, I don't like to meddle in other people's business, but I want to go to the super world. I've already bought the ticket before the attack. If the divine warship is damaged, my journey will be delayed indefinitely. That's not what I want. Hearing Zhuowen's words, Lei Jia, Lei Yu and others looked strange. They didn't expect that Zhuan would take so much trouble just because the ticket in his hand would not be delayed. There was nothing wrong with this reason. Chapter 43-59. In Zixuan Sacred City, in an inconspicuous room of an inn, Fei Pengze looked through the window at the cultivator army that was searching from house to house. The cultivator army of the Zixuan clan has been so active recently. Could it be that they have noticed something? In the room, other than Fei Pengze, there were 2 other people. The one who spoke was the pale skinny man. His voice was very sharp, like a ghost that crawled out from the depths of hell. It was very scary. Fei Pengze shook his head and said, It shouldn't be. The cultivator army of the Zixuan clan has been so active recently. It seems that they are looking for a demon cultivator. And I have also observed that the guards around the divine ship have not increased because of this. This means that these cultivator army are not targeting us. demon cultivator? Do you know the origin of that demon cultivator? To be able to cause such a large-scale search by the Zishen clan and still not be able to find him, this demon cultivator must be extraordinary. The pale skinny man said in surprise. The origin of that demon cultivator is very mysterious. I have also tried to investigate, but there are no clues. However, this person is not important to us. Our main task now is to attack the divine ship and create chaos for the Zishen clan. Fei Pingze said lightly. Leave the matter of the divine worship to us. Fei Pingze, you have a long way to go. You can't disappoint that lord again. The skinny man said meaningfully. I won't make the same mistake twice. Don't worry. Fei Pingze said lightly. In the land of the Thunder Array clan, Yuan looked at the many materials in front of him and nodded with satisfaction. In 2 days, you were able to gather all the materials for the Peerless Divine Lightning Array. You are indeed the #1 array clan in the Zishen realm. The materials for the Peerless Divine Lightning Array were extremely expensive and rare, especially the main material, the Infinite Thunderstone. It was simply a treasure that could only be found by chance. But the Thunder Array clan was able to gather all the materials in 2 days, which made Zhuowen feel a little surprised. If it was him who collected the materials, it would definitely take a lot more time and effort. That's true. After all, our Lightning Array clan specializes in Array Dao. We have many channels to obtain Array Dao materials. The materials for this Peerless Lightning God Array are too precious and rare. We had to pay a high price to obtain them. Lightning said. Worry grinned, feeling rather proud. But when he thought of how expensive these materials were, he could not help but feel some heartache. The Peerless Divine Lightning Array is a peak third heavens of the Eternal Realm. The difficulty of setting it up is not something an ordinary third heavens of the Eternal Realm can compare with. The failure rate is extremely high. We have only prepared 3 sets of materials. I don't know if that's enough. Lei Jia's brows knitted tightly, looking worried. She and Lei Yu were both god masters of Array Dao at the third sky of Eternal Realm, but even they had a certain chance of failure when setting up an ordinary third sky of Eternal Realm Grand Array. The failure rate of an array at the peak of the third sky of Eternal Realm was even higher. She wasn't sure if she could successfully arrange the Peerless Thunder Deity Array before the 3 sets of materials were used up. Let me set it up. I can guarantee that I can successfully arrange the Peerless Divine Lightning Array within these 3 sets of materials. Zhuowen suddenly spoke. With the help of the Thunder Source Array diagram and the immemorial primordial chant, he was confident that he could arrange the Peerless Divine Lightning Array quickly and with a high success rate. Lei Jia and Lei Yu frowned. Zhuowen had just advanced to the third sky of Eternal Realm. They didn't think that Zhuowen could complete this difficult task alone. Let's do it together. This can also improve the success rate, Lei Yu said. I have inherited the knowledge of your ancestor Lei Huan. I know more about the Peerless Divine Lightning Array than you do, but you don't know much about it. If you go with me, it will make my hands and feet tied, Huan said in a low voice. Lei Yu and Lei Jia looked at each other and hesitated for a moment. When they remembered that Zhuowen could even crack the Thunder Source Array diagram in 3 days, they chose to believe in Zhuowen. In order not to disturb Zhuowen from setting up the array, they gave Zhuowen the best secret room in the Thunder Array clan's territory. After entering the spacious secret room, Nguyen didn't hurry to set up the array. Instead, he went through the information about the Peerless Divine Lightning Array that Lei Huan had passed on to him. After revising it several times, Zhuowen felt that he was very confident. He took out the primordial stone and let it float around him, causing his perception and thinking to become more agile and powerful. At the same time, he silently mobilized the Thunder Source Array diagram hidden in his body. At the same time, Zhuowen's body was surrounded by dense threads of lightning. The dense lightning threads wrapped around Zhuowen's body and interwove into a uniform layer of lightning threads. Zhuowen slowly extended his right hand, and a fine rumbling sound could be heard. Countless lightning threads were like iron wires attracted by a magnet, and they all wrapped around his right hand. At this moment, Jun was imagining the arrangement and outline of the peerless divine lightning array in his mind. And his right hand, which was wrapped in fine lightning threads, actually moved on its own as if it was assisted by the gods. It skillfully and quickly took out materials, wrapped them with the array patterns, digested them, and turned them into the purest energy. In front of Zhuowen, complicated array patterns were arranged in various ways, forming strange trajectories and patterns. 2 hours later, the endless lightning threads on Zhuowen's right hand gradually dissipated, revealing a slender and fair palm. Zhuowen looked calmly at the peerless divine lightning array that had already taken shape in front of him. The peerless divine lightning array was deliberately compressed by Zhuowen to only about 3 meters in size. There were dense and complicated array patterns and special symbols inside the array. Array inside, purple lightning flashed faintly, showing the extraordinariness and uniqueness of this array. Array rise. Zhuowen suddenly spoke. Inside the originally calm array, an extremely terrifying crackling sound suddenly resounded. Only violent purple lightning overflowed inside the array. These purple lightning twisted, expanded and contracted, and finally condensed into a mighty and powerful lightning figure, like an invincible thunder god. Is this the power of the peerless divine lightning array? It's really terrifying. When silently looked at the thunder god's shadow in front of him, his eyes full of fear. He could feel the extremely terrifying destructive power contained in this thunder god's shadow. Even if Zhuowen tried to resist this power, he would be annihilated. Even an ancient starlight expert would be seriously injured or even killed in the face of this terrible thunder god's shadow. Zhuowen muttered to himself, feeling extremely surprised. He had a powerful treasure like the thunder god's array pattern. As long as his array Dao level improved again, he could rely on the thunder god's array pattern to arrange such a powerful and terrifying array in an instant. Unexpectedly, now that he has just entered the eternal third heaven, he can smoothly arrange the peerless divine lightning array in an hour. The time to arrange the array will only get shorter and shorter in the future. After Zhuowen put the complete version of the peerless divine lightning array into the array plate, he was not in a hurry to leave the secret room. The peerless divine lightning array was extremely difficult to set up. If he went out now and announced the success of the array, Lei Yu, Lei Jia, Zhou Yuan and others would probably doubt their lives. Chapter 4360. After 2 days of quiet cultivation in the secret room, Zhuowen pushed the door out. Outside the door, Lei Yu, Lei Jia, and others have not left. They are waiting anxiously. When they saw Zhuowen push the door out, they quickly greeted him and asked about the results. The peerless thunder god array was successfully arranged. It is all in this disc. Zhuowen said indifferently as he threw a pitch-black disc array to Lei Yu. Lei Yu caught the disc in a hurry, and after checking it repeatedly and confirming that the disc was indeed the pattern of the peerless thunder god array, he was pleasantly surprised. Little friend Emowen, you are really awesome. It was successfully arranged in 2 days. Your success rate has reached 1/3, which is extremely amazing. Lei Yu gave Zhuowen a thumbs up and praised him. Zhuowen thought about it, waved his sleeve, and took out the remaining 2 materials. In fact, I only used 1 material, and the remaining 2 materials will be returned to you. Of course, if you can, I also need these materials. You can sell them to me. Zhuowen said lightly. Lei Yu, who was still giving Zhuowen a thumbs up, his smile was completely stiff. He looked straight at the 2 materials that Zhuowen had casually piled on the ground. After a moment of silence, he took a breath. Lei Jia, Zhou Yuan and Chen Yin were also completely shocked. Worthy of my master, the peerless thunder god array is such a complex and powerful array, and the success rate has reached 100%. Zhou Yuan thought to himself, and he admired Zhuowen even more. Several people, you can quote a price for these 2 materials. Zhuowen saw Lei Yu and others silent, and could not help but emphasize it again. Nephew, you are so polite. You have successfully arranged the peerless thunder god array for us. We haven't paid you yet? How could I have the nerve to sell this to you? These 2 materials will be given to you as a reward. Lei Jia said in a warm tone. Zhuan thought about it and did not refuse, so he accepted the two materials. The Peerless Thunder God array is powerful and can be one of his trump cards, so these two materials are still very important to him. Si Zhuan accepted the materials. Lei Yu and Lei Jia's smiles became even brighter. Now, take the array discs and find a place near the divine ship to set them up in advance. After all, the longer the array is stored in the disc array, the more serious the loss of energy will be. At that time, the power of the array will gradually weaken, Zhuan said. Lei Yu and Lei Jia nodded. After making some preparations, they headed for the divine warship. While Zhuan and the Jiao Yuan are still staying in the Thunder Array clan under the hospitality of Chen Yin. Now moreover, Zhuan was wanted by the entire Zishuan clan. It was not a good choice for him to go out now. When Lei Yu and Lei Jia returned, it was already the second day. Their expressions were extremely grim. Their divine senses were much stronger than the average cultivators. When they entered the vicinity of the divine ship, they could clearly sense many malicious gazes. However, these malicious gazes were not directed at them, but at the divine warship. At this moment, they completely believed Zhuowen's words. Someone was indeed preparing to attack the divine warship. And the goal of these people was just as Zhuowen said, to cause chaos in Zixien Sacred City. Until Zhuowen did not tell Lei Yu and Lei Jia that the real purpose of these people was to snatch the sacred fire source. Although he didn't know the sacred fire source, he also knew that this thing should be very important. If he accidentally said it, he himself might be in danger, so he wisely kept silent. Another 2 days passed. On this day, after Zhuan disguised himself, he quietly went to the divine ship with Lei Yu, Lei Jia, the Jiao Yuan and Chen Yin, who were also disguised. They did not bring the rest of the Thunder Array clan. There with the Peerless Thunder Array, the 5 of them were completely enough. Too many people would be easier to expose. Divine Warship. The ship is located in the west of the sacred city, where there is a huge open space. In the center of the open space, there is a huge steel behemoth. It is the famous divine ship of Zixien Sacred City. The divine ship is actually an enlarged version of the divine ship, but it is far larger, more magnificent and spectacular than the divine ship. The divine ship is made of some kind of solid crystal stone, and the surface is covered with barb-like spikes. It looks like a terrifying beast whose whole body is a weapon. On the surface of the divine ship, there are all kinds of brilliance flowing. Those are the different colors emitted by the various large restrictions, gorgeous and magnificent. Zhuan looked at the divine ship silently and sighed in his heart. This divine ship is so powerful. No wonder it can become a medium for traveling between the high-level and super-level domains. The cycle of the divine ship's flight is very long, so it will take many days before the next flight. And the latest takeoff is the information recorded on Zhuowen's ticket, which is 5 days later. Zhuowen knew that the attack would begin in the next 2 days. Once the attack appeared, they would have to find a way to stop it. Zhuowen and his party of 5 wandered aimlessly around the divine ship, occasionally buying things in the nearby buildings, shops and other places, as if the 5 of them really came to wait for the passengers of the divine ship. The sky gradually darkened, and the surroundings of the divine ship became much quieter. The guards of the Zixien clan stationed here patrolled the surroundings listlessly. None in the past few years, there were almost no cases of the divine ship being attacked, so the guards stationed here basically had nothing to do. Most of them were very relaxed and did not think that anyone would dare to attack. Boom, boom, boom. In the silence, a building not far from the divine ship suddenly exploded. The deafening roar spread throughout the vicinity of the divine ship. Following that, flames soared into the sky, spreading thousands of kilometers around the divine ship as if they were burning the sky. Many of the guards who were originally listless were stunned, and many of them did not know what to do. Black shadows flickered, and in the blink of an eye, they appeared behind the nearby guards. With a raise of their hands, the guards were beheaded before they could react. Boom! After a long time, the guards finally reacted. They all sounded the alarm and scurried around in fear like headless flies. They only knew how to scream in fear, and did not think of reorganizing their forces to fight back. Blackmore and more shadows came from all directions, and the number of guards guarding the divine ship decreased, while the number of corpses increased. The corpses of these guards fell into the darkness, and were crazily gnawed by the evil spirits everywhere. They were truly destroyed in body and soul. At the northwest corner of the divine ship, in the shadows of an alley, Owen and his party of 5 silently looked at the increasing number of shadows around the divine ship, and their expressions became extremely grave. Let's quickly activate the peerless lightning god formation. Leyu could not help but say, "These are all small fries, and the real big shots have not appeared yet." Zhuowen said calmly, "You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.